Before we start, Jack move, man. How come you got such a sexual looking profile picture?
What you mean, man? Oh, you like the picture, brother?
It's like an OnlyFans picture or something.
You know what they did? I was washing my hair one day, man. I don't know why I had my camera on me, but I'm like, let me take a picture right now, you know.
Be honest, man. You used that shot for Tinder, didn't you?
I'm just giving the fans something, you know what I mean? Some slight.
What is up, everybody? What a night we got for you guys. An outstanding show. Outstanding show. Look at this great panel. Look at this outstanding panel, guys. I got to be honest with you. Really went through this week, asked these guys to come on the show as a favor and said, listen, these guys have been absolutely on fire on Twitter, now known as X. And I have to say, just outstanding. Outstanding work on all their fronts. Unbelievable. These guys do their own podcasts. They do their own shows. Outstanding. Outstanding. I am looking forward to tonight for a lot of different reasons. A lot of big news going on. A lot of things that we've said over the years have kind of been in the news. And I'm just wondering what everyone's thinking. I'm wondering what this panel's thinking. The chat is on fire. I see all the let's go, CrossFire. Everybody's on fire right now. Love it. Guys, please take a second, if you will, to hit that like button. Take a second to hit that subscribe button. We keep getting at least like 20, 30 new people a week. It means the world to me, guys. Really, we work really hard on the channel. Love to see it grow. And it's because of you guys. And I generally go down the entire list, but I want to say thanks to Lotus Esprit and the great Mash who's here with us. Shout out to Mash and Lotus. They have gifted so many members. What I'm trying to do is actually get it so that everybody's name starting next week will go across the top. So you guys will be literally a part of the show, the entire show. So I'm not going to call everybody out because I have so many topics to get to tonight. Everybody here has a lot of strong opinions on what's been going on in the news. And I got to tell you, I'm excited to hear about it. I'm very excited to hear about it. That being said, let me start with the great panel that we have here. And by the way, guys, don't forget, right? Look at that amazing description right there. That's going to give you a little synopsis of what we're talking about tonight. Right above that is the join button. If you do want to become a Mooch Maniac family member, I would much appreciate it. Please go ahead and join the family. The great Mash already with 20 gifted members. I got to get that scroller going across the top. So many great names, so many great people, a part of the Mooch Maniac family members. Outstanding, Mash. Thank you. You are so kind. I cannot say thank you enough. I will start the show with an announcement as well. The great Detective Seeds, we tried to get on the show for the past 2 or 3 weeks, but he's been working. He's diligently been working, I may say, is finally on the show tonight, and he is joining the show permanently as a cast member, an absolute wonderful panel member. The great Detective Seeds on the show again, and will be a repeat every Thursday. Seeds, how the hell you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing excellent, man. How are you?
Not too bad, buddy. Not too bad. And I know you're a Pacers fan, but you know the Knicks are doing all right. All right?
I know. I've been licking my wounds, traveling for work, and excited to be back on here, man. I really appreciate you extending that offer for me to come on here and grace the presence of YouTube and the CrossFire podcast with being here. So I'm ready to get into it, man. It's been a crazy couple weeks and a lot of news coming out. So looking forward to chopping up with the panel as always. Thanks for coming in, chat. Make sure you hit the like button.
Appreciate that, Seeds, and it's great to have you be a part of the panel permanently. And I got to say, shout out to everybody that knows that Brap is usually here. Brap's hopefully going to join us the second half of the show. He's doing a little stuff with the family, so shout out to Brap. Hopefully we'll see him on the second half. Again, shout out and thanks to Mash. I see everybody being like, yo, Mash, thank you so much. Craig the Tech Guy with $2. Thank you, Craig. The Super Chat's working. It's a miracle. Speaking of miracles, there's no better night to get the voice of reason back on the show. We've been trying to get him back on for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I got to tell you, every time he's on the show, it's for the right purpose. Because last week he couldn't make it, and I'm glad he's here this week. The voice of reason's back again. The great Eric Jackson. Eric, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Excuse me. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Mooch. I know, it's been a crazy couple of weeks, but I'm happy I could finally make it on, bro.
Well, E, I got to be honest with you. I know that me and you've been talking behind the scenes for forever. But this past week has been just, wow. Chef's kiss, right?
Yeah.
So can't wait to hear what you got to say, E. I hope you got your notes ready. We'll be getting back to you in just 1 second. I got to tell you, the great Jack Move Johnny's with us. Jack is back on the show, guys. You guys know Jack from Weapon Wheel Podcast, Sunday nights, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Lord's time, that is. Shout out to Jack, who's back. Jack, can't wait to hear. I've literally been waiting all week to hear what you got to say, Jack. How you doing, man? Welcome back to the show.
Hey man, what's good? Shout out to the panel. Shout out to the viewers. We here. There's a lot been going on, man. Gaming news been kind of dry these past couple of months, but feel like it's heating up a little bit, man. I don't know. It's heating up.
It's definitely warm tonight. I'm going to tell you, Jack. It's definitely warm tonight. I can't wait to get into the topics tonight. Guys, the great Nib is with us too tonight, and you guys might know him. I think he's an English major. He keeps on showing us all this delicious food that's going on, and he doesn't even live in the States. I can't even go over there and get a free dish. I can't even mooch a dish. The great Nib is with us. Nib, you are known throughout Twitter as probably one of the longest. I know you must be paying for that blue check mark. Because I got to tell you, I don't know how many characters you have a day.
I actually paid on for a new version of the blue check mark that allows me to do theses as well. So yeah, I've been utilizing that. Hello to everyone. It's cool to be back. I was just going to say, if you guys hear me sniffling, there were no drugs involved. It's just hay fever. So there's nothing like that. But yeah, it's been like gaming news Armageddon the last few weeks. I don't know what's going on. Everyone's going crazy.
Nib, I am
crazy.
so glad you said that, because honestly, I'm just getting over a bit of a cold myself. I was actually talking to Brap earlier in the week, and I said, man, I hope my voice comes back for Thursday. So yeah, so if I also sound a little nasally, it's because I'm not feeling great. The weather in New York is all over the place. It'll go from like mid to high 70s, and then we'll drop right into the high 50s. And I'm like, what is going on?
We're the same. It's like the weatherman's having a bubble bath. I don't get it. Like 1 minute it's stormy, and the next minute it's like, it doesn't make no sense.
So, yeah, I can't figure it out either. But, yeah, so, Nib, I'm right there with you. Great to have you here with us tonight. The great TCMF is back on the show. And, TC, listen, I brought you on so many times during the FTC trials, and you said, Mooch, I love you to death, but stop talking to me about the FTC. So the great TC is back after a long vacation, and what do? I bring him back. We're not going to talk FTC tonight, TC, but we are definitely going to talk about subjects that kind of floated around those subjects. TC, welcome back to the show, buddy. I know you're rested. How you doing tonight?
Doing good. I was wondering if you were going to bring that up as an introduction back when we were talking about the FTC stuff. No, I'm at least this time around. It's not legal conversations. I know it's going to dive into that a bit, but it's mainly at mismanagement. I think is from what I'm seeing here, we're going to probably focus about. But it's going to be an interesting conversation.
Well, that's 100% true. 100% true. And this is one of my. I love it when this happens. Just doing a podcast a couple weeks ago, and I see RGG in the chat, and he's got the check mark. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. RGG's here. That's awesome. He goes, Mooch, do me a favor. Let me hit you up. I want to actually be on the show. I want to talk gaming news. So we set it up for this week. Couldn't have been a better week. It's Ranting Greek Gamer, RGG's first time on CrossFire, over here from Greece, reporting live from Greece to New York. RGG, welcome to your first time on CrossFire, buddy. Couldn't have picked a better night. How you doing this evening?
Hello, guys, and it is a great honor to be a part of the show. Thank you so much for having me here. I have wanted to be a part of the show for a very long time, so now it's like a great wish coming true.
Well, it's great to have you here, RGG. I love to get different takes, especially from all parts of the world. So to hear what you and your fans that are listening to your channel all the time and that kind of news you can bring to us here, I'm all ears. So RGG, thanks for being here tonight. Guys, without further ado, I do want to kind of start with something here. So I wrote like a small little like intro here, and then we're going to go right to the great Jack, Move Johnny. I can't wait to hear Jack's take on this. But I do want to bring a point up before we go in. A lot of times people will say, and guys, just kind of hear me out here. How many times after you graduated high school or you graduated college, your friends are like, I'm going to open a bar. I'm going to open a restaurant. And Nib, I want you to pay attention to this too, because I know you're going to get a laugh out of this in the restaurant business. And people go, well, wait a minute. You don't really know a lot about the bar business and things like that. You say, but don't worry about it. I'm going to put a manager in place. I'm going to have a great cook. And I'll just show up at the end of the night and I'll just collect, the cash out of the register. And that's why a lot of times, especially in the United States anyways, I believe this, and the ratio may have changed. Nib, you can correct me what's going on over there in the UK. But, usually 85% of restaurants, they don't make it because that doesn't really work. It doesn't work that way. And Microsoft Xbox thought that they could be buy previously independent companies that had to fight for their livelihood to keep the lights on and put food on the table. That's what that independent spirit is. You get up and you make the best product you possibly can do, and then after they were purchased, Microsoft removes that hunger. And we've said that. Now, all of a sudden, they don't have to worry about paying all the bills. They don't have to worry about insurance for all of their employees. They don't have to worry about holiday. They don't have to worry about any of this stuff because Microsoft is really covering, they're covering a lot of those bases. And in the end, the true talent kind of leaves. We saw a lot of the acquisitions, a lot of the teams, a lot of the big names left some of these teams. And I think what happens after that is they leave to kind of spread their creative wings. And what you're left is with a team that needs leadership. And I feel like the guidance from, and I'm just saying a couple, like Phil, who's come under, a lot of, he's been under fire for the past couple of days, and Matt Booty, the leadership was never really there when these other higher ups in those acquisitions left, and that was one of the things that I think is a bigger problem. And what Phil has promised is not only not come true, it hasn't even come remotely close. Project Scarlet will set the tone. Game Pass is the future. The Series X will have games. Starfield will jumpstart Game Pass and this generation. But none of these things really kind of happened. It's not the customer's fault. It's an Xbox leadership issue. They did not carry out, they didn't execute the plans properly. That goes for timely releases or the quality of the games. Everything was late, delayed, pushed back, or canceled. Let's start tonight's show with that in mind. This is not an Xbox versus PlayStation thing. It really isn't. This is us, all of us, Xbox fans, PlayStation fans, PC fans. It's gamers. It's gamers versus what's happened to Xbox. What have they done to that once respected platform? And that's the thing I think a lot of people are asking. It's not just us on this show. I think a lot of people are asking that on a lot of different podcasts. And you're seeing the gaming media kind of really going to get a spark under them. And now they're asking some of these questions. So, Jack, I'm going to you here right now. Microsoft closes Arcane Austin, Tango Gameworks, and a few other studios that they just acquired a few years back. Who's to blame, Jack? I mean, you've always said, this is the situation. This is why this didn't work. Like, who is to blame for all of this? Is this just what Microsoft's major plan was? Is it because Game Pass didn't end up doing what they wanted it to do? Or was it just honestly too hard to pump out that many games and retain customers in a service that constantly wants new, innovative types of games that they just couldn't produce?
Well, honestly, bro, we got to blame, at the end of the day, like my guy in the intro said, we got to blame Microsoft leadership right now. Let's take a history lesson, because I've been having this debate with people on Twitter for a few days now. If you go back, this is well documented now, people. The reason Game Pass exists in the first place is because during last generation, every time VG charts or any sales tracking data would come out, the Xbox version would be drastically outsold. If it was a multi-plat game, it was drastically outsold. I even saw an article yesterday. Even PC, which is a niche gaming platform, right? It's for enthusiasts. It was even getting outsold by PC. It was times where it was 88% on PlayStation, 12% on Xbox. So, the 360 gen, Xbox led in software sales, but for some reason, during the Xbox One generation, the gamers stopped purchasing the games. This is known facts. So they created Game Pass, and of course they need to put content in Game Pass. So, and from the beginning, a lot of people say, I don't see how sustainable. You got 400 games you paying a license for. You charging sometimes $1 a month. I've had Game Pass for over 3 years. Mm-hmm. I haven't paid more than, I want to say, maybe $15-20 out of my own pocket. They offer it for free. They putting it on fucking toaster packets and cookies and popcorn at the move. So on top of that, they hop off the porch and they do $80 billion worth of acquisitions on top of them not charging really little to nothing for game, and that's great for the gamer. Well, maybe not, because we see the ramifications of that right now.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but like I said, if you drop $80 billion and you're not selling games actually, and you letting people rent the games on your service, that you're giving them the service for free as well to boost engagement numbers, it's like, where's the revenue coming from? You see what I'm saying? So I definitely blame. I don't even know if I blame Phil Spencer. I feel like I'm starting to look at Satya Nadella a different way, or how Satya Nadella. I feel like he the main guy over there, right? I feel like he's the one that's truly in power, and Phil Spencer's just a talking head. Matt Booty talking head. Sarah Bond, she's a sacrificial lamb as far as I'm concerned. They put her in charge of Xbox when the shit is going left. The ship is sinking right now. But I blame Satya Nadella and whoever. I forgot the dude that was over there before him. And they were saying every time it was a decision made, they were like, well, Phil's not truly in charge. I forgot the dude's name, man. But I blame them.
Yeah, no, I know you, and I'm trying to think of the name of the person you're talking about. You're talking about before Satya?
Yeah, it was another guy over there at first.
Yeah, I think at this point, I think what a lot of people are starting to think right now, and Nib, I don't know if you want to respond to this, because I think that a lot of things that Jack says,
I would love to. Yeah.
You've really kind of gotten in on this. At this point, I do agree with Jack. I don't know how much of this right now is Phil, Matt, or Sarah's really. I think they're just out there talking at this point, but I think Satya has taken the helm.
So you know what I think it is? I think it's figuring out that the war chest that Microsoft has is not charity, it's an investment.
That's right.
And with investment comes return, right? And this is the, coming home to roost, so to speak. So, whilst Phil Spencer himself may not have been responsible for these actual studio closures, it's more like the promise that he set and the expectations and the goals and the projections that he essentially pitched did not come to fruition. So the higher up said, okay, well, we've given you, I mean, I'll just lay context, right? There's been 3 years in a row of missed targets financially, right? Of Game Pass growth. 3 years in a row. That's actually cost Satya Nadella and the executives bonuses, millions of dollars in bonuses, because they failed to hit those targets. From 2022 January, 9 months onwards, the Game Pass subscriber number didn't change, 25 million, right?
Right.
The FTC documents show that in 2022 there was 11.7 million Xbox Live Gold subscribers. So add that together with 25 million Game Pass subscribers, you're at 37 million, right? Roughly, almost. And then what happens in 2023? They release Starfield. It's essentially their biggest game. It's the first game, would you believe? It's the first game that has charted in the annual Sakana/MPD annual sales since 2016. First Xbox exclusive in 8 years that has even charted, right? So this is their big title. They put all their, 8 years of development, hundreds of millions of dollars, nearly 4,000 people credited to its development. This is a huge title, right? Essentially, they've spent a lot of money for this title. What happens? It comes out in September 2023. Along with it, they combine Xbox Live Gold to become Core.
Right.
And then in 2024, the beginning of 2024, they announced what? They announced 34 million Game Pass subscribers, including Core, where a year and a half before, it was 37 million. So not only did Starfield not change the variables and increase growth, it actually caused a decline. So with their biggest game, there was actually a decline the following few months. And I think that may have been like the straw that broke the camel's back, right? So you've got 3 years of missed growth targets. In 2023, they thought they're going to be at 44 million subscribers, but they're at 25 million. And then Starfield comes out, they combine Xbox Live Gold, and still there's decline. There's like a 3 million loss in subscribers. I think that was like enough is enough, right? Because how much can you put your aspirations into these targets that are never met? And I think, sorry, I'm blabbling. I was just going to say, fundamentally, I think the what it boils down to, and I could be completely wrong, I think Phil Spencer and whoever has championed Game Pass has fundamentally misunderstood the appeal of Game Pass and who it appeals to. Because I think they really thought it had like immense mass market appeal. You know, stick it on mobile, stick it on Samsung TV, stick it on you know, everything, PC, mobile, etc.
Yeah.
We have over 2 billion people who are going to have access to it. It's going to kick off. But I think the truth is, it's not going to be the Netflix of gaming or the Spotify, because gaming isn't the same type of hobby. No. Most gamers only play 1, 2, 3 games a year, right? And there just isn't much draw to someone who's mostly playing free-to-play games like Fortnite and Warzone or FIFA to spend $210 on a subscription service with hundreds of games, because they don't play hundreds of games. So really what it boils down to is core gamers find the most appeal, like me and you, who play countless games every year, but there's just maybe not enough of us, you know, to satiate the growth that they had expectations for.
No, you know, I like what you said. You kind of touched on a couple of different subjects here. And I'm going to get to the super chats in a minute, guys. I really do appreciate all the super chats. Shout out to everybody that's here. I see Kami's here, who was on the show last week. Eric, I want to ask you something, because Nib kind of brought a few things up, and we've been talking about this over the past couple of years. And that is that, like, the way Game Pass's model is, people go, it's the best deal in gaming. First of all, value's in the eye of the beholder. That's fine. I'm not here to tell. If anybody was on the panel right now and they go, I love Game Pass, you're not going to hear me say anything but that's awesome. That is great. But like Nib said, most people, the casuals, are buying 2, 3 games a year. Those games, and everyone's always very, very, you know, we're always opinionated on this. We'll say, oh, it's Call of Duty or Madden or NBA, or maybe, you know, or they're playing the free-to-play games, right? They're playing their Fortnites and Apex or Warzones. But Eric, the one thing that I want to kind of ask you, though, and we see it with what's happened with their big releases. Nib mentioned this. Jack mentioned this. Okay, Halo was supposed to come out in 2020, delayed a year. Okay, Starfield was supposed to be the game of the generation. Forget the game of the generation in that talk. It was supposed to be the game that really kickstarted the Xbox Series consoles and the entire plan. And it didn't do it. And it was delayed a year. And they both came out in the way that they were. And I know the minute I say that, people go, well, come on, they rated fine. Rating fine that's one thing. I don't really get off on the whole thing. You guys always see that. I never go, oh, you should go buy this game. Why, Mooch? Oh, because you got a 92. You have to have a little bit more than that. It's not just it got a 92 or it got an 87 or it got an 83. You know, like we'll talk a little bit about Stellar Blade. I think it's sitting at an 82. That's not a good sales pitch. I have to tell you what's great about this game to be able to spark interest in the gamers to go out there and make that buy. So, Eric, I guess my question to you is, you already know what's going on. Who's to really blame here? But I'm also noticing a quality issue. This is the first time Forza Motorsport didn't do well at all. And I mean, it literally fizzled out. I mean, it was a couple of weeks and nobody was talking about it anymore. There's still people talking about GT7, and I'm not a race car guy. You know, you guys know that. The panel knows that.
You know, Forza Motorsport, I'm glad you touched on that, because I made a tweet about it, actually. And it sounds really bad because we're being so negative, but actually Forza Motorsport's sales and sort of player engagement results were catastrophically bad, and I'm not using that lightly, right? So put it this way, UK is traditionally quite racing centric. Racing games do well here, right? In the GSD annual sales, which is the sales over the whole year, do you know where Forza Motorsport ranked in the UK, including digital sales? 463rd.
Yeah.
That is unreal. It's unreal. Not even in the top 400. I mean, even like B tier games often get in the 100, 150, you know, etc. And this is 463rd. And I thought, okay, maybe everyone just played it on Game Pass and no one bought it, right? Then you look at the most played on Xbox, USA and UK, and it's not even it wasn't even in the top 50 in the US at launch, like around launch period for the first few weeks. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and so Nib, thank you for adding the stats to that. I mean, Eric, you hear what Nib just said. The numbers are there to show you. I mean, Eric, at the end of the day, I think, and I said this a lot of times, you said it on the show, Eric, I just don't feel like the Xbox leadership has their finger on the pulse. They have to be more in tune with their teams. They lost a lot of talent in these acquisitions, and now you hear Matt Booty saying, well, we had to close these folks to kind of reorganize talent and move into other areas, and it's just like, what is going on? You know, I don't know.
Well, he says that, and then he comes right up, and this is what he's being clowned for: is to say, "Well, we need more games like that are smaller but have more prestige and win us awards." And we're like, "You just let go of a studio that produced that for you, you know." And so it goes hand in hand with fingers being on the pulse. And Mooch, what is like one of the main things that I've said on here? And people get aggravated when you say it. Gaming, like sports, gaming, like hip hop, gaming, like everything else, is a culture. And it's a part of a zeitgeist, and it has a part of a discussion or whatever. And people keep trying to say, well, it's the media that pushes Sony to the forefront and this and that. It's like, no, if you look at in terms of Android is the bigger platform over iOS, right? But
yes,
who gets a lot of the talking points automatically? What's the cool thing to have? An iPhone.
right.
And you can have that debate all day long because they control sort of the zeitgeist about it, right? Yes, Android is open. You can do a lot of things with it. And I have nothing against Android phones, whatever, but you look at the zeitgeist of what, you know, youth kind of want, what people kind of say, well, it's just this and it's just that. They control the narrative in those terms, right? It's the same thing like when it comes to PlayStation and Nintendo and this and that. They appear to have a culture around gaming and understand the pulse. And we can talk, you know, on the pod about where we feel Sony is currently. I know Jack has a lot of opinions on that. He gets a lot of smoke for being honest about a lot of those things. But the fact of the matter is they still control mind share. They still control a big portion of culture.
Yes.
You know, when you drop, you know, Kratos' axe in the middle of a town square for people to come and take pictures with, that's culture. That's talking to a certain person who's into a certain thing. And so when you see, you know, Microsoft closing Tango, who dropped one of the coolest games that had, you know, whether you like Hi-Fi Rush or not, people enjoyed that game. They liked it. They talked about it.
Yes.
And you know, you do the shadow drop. If you're going to shadow drop, here's where your culture comes in. A shadow drop is cool. And people say, well, the shadow drop kind of messed them up. Maybe not. The problem is you had nothing ready to go with that.
That's right.
That thing should have been plastered all. Hey, we just shadow dropped this, and guess what? Here's the ad campaign. It's all over Times Square. It's all over. It's in buses in London. It's just there because you have this character in Chai in this vivid looking game that speaks to gamer culture. Whether people like the game or not, you can build around that. So no one. I kind of look at it like this. And people may get mad at me saying this, but where is the Xbox cool factor that they had with the OG when they were a scrappy upstart?
Yeah.
I say that's funny to say upstart for a $1 trillion company,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what they were seen as. People were like, Microsoft's going to make a console? Get out of here. What? And then they came, they were hungry, they were going after everybody trying to get people for this thing, and they had control of the zeitgeist. They actually took over a lot of the mind share. If you go back and watch TV shows and movies from that era, that's what people featured in their shows and movies, the Xbox, the 360, this and that, you know, and they don't seem to have that. And they still don't seem to have their finger on the pulse. And so you do something like a Game Pass where you're like, well, it's the Netflix of gaming. And you have the influencers out there. It's the future of gaming. I'm like, and what have we been saying on here forever, Mooch? And like Nib just said, gaming is not consumed the same way movies and
it's not.
music is.
It's not.
It's a time commodity.
Yes.
So I don't care how much of a value. It can be a value to somebody for sure, but you only have so much time. You know, and that's just the reality of it. It's just, I don't know. To me, their biggest thing is culture. And we see it this week in the way Matt Booty, he doesn't know the name of his studios in his email.
Yeah.
He's saying we're closing this studio because XYZ, but then saying that we need smaller games that do this and this and that. And it just feels like there's no pulse around them. And I know people are kind of giving them shit too about the Hellblade 2 marketing. Where is the marketing for it? And people are like, well, it's showing up here and it's showing up there. And they're giving a roadmap for what their marketing is going to be. That says a lot.
Yeah. No, it does.
Give a roadmap from gamers. Don't give a shit about your roadmap for marketing. Just marketing.
That's right.
Hey, guys, look at us. Please believe us. We're going to talk about Hellblade. We promise. Here's the roadmap. No, you just go and you talk to gamers where they are.
Well, that's exactly it. When you follow like Zuby Tech and a few others out there that show the news, you see that when you see like Stellar Blade, it was all over the place. It was in London. Right. It was over in I think Hong Kong. They had something. They had all these great like marketing things going on. New York City, like they just did it. They didn't say here's the roadmap. You know, make sure to stop by Times Square tomorrow. We've got a huge billboard up. No, what? Like it's just
culture. Culture is projecting God of War 2018 on the floor of a basketball game at halftime. Culture is wrapping an entire subway train with Spider-Man, so it's all over the place and people see it.
That's right.
Things that get people excited. Where's the excitement? It's outside of the hardcore, because the hardcore will tell you all day. They want you to believe 100% that people are about it. And I told you before, Mooch, for me anyway, when you kind of look at Xbox, it's like the generational thing. Like, well, my grandpappy drove a Ford, my daddy drove a Ford,
yep.
So I drive a Ford. That's kind of how you look at Xbox. It's like, nope. Well, we're an Xbox house, But
yeah.
I'm telling you, I worked in the school board for a period, in middle school in particular, and the kids, of course, talk Fortnite, they talk this, they talk that, and I watched these kids talk about PS4, and I watched kids huddled around like the lunch table playing, Smash Brothers,
yep,
and stuff like that. Rarely did I ever hear them talk about owning an Xbox, wanting to play on Xbox. Or I'm serious, and that people may think I'm capping, or I'm hyperbole, but I'm being dead serious. That's who these companies want to reach.
Yeah. No,
I just want to say as well, Jackson, you're saying that. You're from the States, right? I assume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Imagine the rest of Europe, not so much the UK, but if it's like that in the United States, right? The PlayStation is more of a European-centric console, right? So imagine in the rest of the EU. In France, right. Germany, Spain, it's going to be tenfold that, right? Which is why in some European countries the sales were 4-1, even up to 12-1. So yeah, I completely agree with your point about the culture, but sometimes you have to create the culture.
This is home base for them, and they don't control the mind share.
But the thing is, when we actually take a second to step back and think about everything we're saying right now, because Eric said what he said, Nib, you just kind of clarified that PlayStation is a European, that's their market. But there was a lot of growth of the Xbox brand as we were going into the 360 into the Xbox One. The UK was really embracing Xbox, and the thing is when they did this pivot, I don't think they had to do that pivot as a matter of fact, with the Game Pass and the day and date, like they were in control of their IP. They were in control of when they would release their games, and they decided to do this. And I think what they really thought was they still do. You see a lot of articles right now. They're like, well, everyone's going to do this. Why would anybody do this? Nib, if you gave me, a business plan, and you go, Mooch, you have to do this. This is what I did. You really should do this. I go, but Nib, you went out of business. Like, why would I? Madness. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. So if I'm PlayStation, why would I all of a sudden want to go? I that's where I'm confused on that point.
It's so funny you bring up the UK, because actually during the 360 days, the UK was more Xbox territory than it was PlayStation.
That's right.
And I was among them, because you can't say no when someone's throwing at you Gears of War, BioShock, Mass Effect, Project Gotham Racing, Halo 3, as a gamer, you have to go where the quality games are. It's just how it is, right? So when they have this unprecedented cadence of high quality, people are going to go there. Consumers are going to go there. Even if maybe at the time the brand wasn't as sexy as PlayStation or whatever, but they go where the games are. Plus, PlayStation made the mishap of being a bit too expensive.
Absolutely.
And they had that kind of momentum, and they just fucking squandered. Oh, sorry, they just squandered it. It's like they went with this Kinect focus instead, tail end of the 360, and then Xbox One. They had all the DRM and all the other stuff, and I just think they lost the essence of why the 360 was so loved, and they've never really captured it again.
Yeah, so TC, I want to ask you, I have a couple of questions.
By the way,
go ahead.
If I may something, if I may say something about this, because Nib, he is from the UK, so I would like to say this. Here in Greece, and I believe that mostly in the Eastern Balkans, I think that this console, Xbox, has no official capacity whatsoever. I mean, here in Greece, there is no company that is actually representing Xbox. Nothing. and I think that the same goes for other countries also, like Bulgaria, Romania, and things like that. I have to let you know, guys, that Xbox has nothing over there. And I hear you guys speaking about these great advertisements that are happening over there in the in the US and the UK and things like that. Here in my country, we don't see any of that, nothing at all. And what I want to believe is, because you were speaking about marketing earlier, I think that MS, that they have marketing as an afterthought. I think that they believe that it is something that is not something very important, or they might think that perhaps they don't need to advertise Hellblade 2 that much, because we have been hearing about Sea of Thieves coming over to the PlayStation 5 for the past 2 months.
Yep.
Everywhere. And we have been hearing this and on YouTube and on websites and on advertisements and things like that. And you see a mess, pushing Sea of Thieves so much because it came out on the PlayStation 5 in the past couple of months, and they were pushing this game so much, and then Aaron Greenberg comes and he's trying to push marketing for Hellblade 2 in just 15 days before the game comes out. Which me, it seems that they care more about what they are going to bring out on the PlayStation 5 than what is going to come on their own console in about 15 days. Which is nuts.
Well, this is. Honestly. So, RG, one of the things that they said as they were kind of going into this generation, ending last generation, was they were going to do more of like a grassroots. And you really did see what they did. You guys remember when the Xbox Series X and S came out, right? Do you remember everybody, all the influencers that were like, posing with their console? They got it, weeks before, maybe a month or so before. And they really went that route. They were trying to do, YouTube and just grassroots. And then they really thought that Game Pass was just going to spread, by word of mouth, which, by the way, word of mouth is a very powerful advertising tool. There's nothing anybody trusts more than a family member or a trusted friend when they make a purchase and they're enjoying it. That's what they'll say, because they know that the friend doesn't make 5% off the sale. So they really banked on that. So TC, I want to kind of go to TC here because I'm glad RG made those points. And hearing that you're seeing less and less advertising of anything Microsoft over there, but then there's a lot of advertising going on as far as Sea of Thieves coming to PS5. But TC, my question for you, and again, if you want to talk about who's to blame, you can get into that. But it's really kind of runs.
I think people dove into that pretty much.
I was going to say,
as well.
That's why I'm shifting a bit here. So how does the recent layoffs, cancellations of these beloved studios, how does this hurt Microsoft and Xbox's perception moving forward, TC? And I don't just mean that as far as us, the gamers, or people listening to the podcast right now or later. I'm talking about, what about when they were like, well, Microsoft's not done buying companies. Well, now if I'm a company, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Wait a second here. I might make a quick buck at the beginning, but I might end up being out of the job in a year and a half. So, I mean,
I think Moon Studios mentioned that.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I saw the post by Moon Studios where he pretty much said, I don't know if that was the director, where he pretty much said that there's a reason why we didn't want to get bought out. And this was the reason. Obviously, being independent, it's more stressful, but you have your control. And if you go under another company, they have the control. As far as perception, I think and I don't know if this is going to sound negative, because I speak to people in my life who play video games as well. They're more casual than I am, and they haven't really tapped into this. Obviously, recently it's been Drake versus Kendrick, so nobody's really been tapping into. And even on a normal situation, they hear studios shut down. Some of these people don't know, that Tango did Ghostwire or some of these games that they probably did like until somebody explains it to them. So maybe to the public, they're going to see that it's a negativity, but if they already like Game Pass and games are going to still be coming, they might enjoy that. But as the gamers, which Xbox really needs, because I know they're trying to focus on the broader audience, but I feel like they forget Game Pass's heart is on Xbox. So you might want to focus outside a bit more to gain more of an audience, but you have to please your core gamers, which Sony does outside of communication, because they need more of that. But yeah, for gamers, obviously it's hurt, because gamers that watch this and pay attention to this, they're not happy that I did not realize. And again, I haven't played Hi-Fi Rush. I did not realize the Hi-Fi Rush fandom. That was insane to see on my timeline, and the engagement on those was just wild to see. So in terms of core gamers and people who actually pay attention to what's going on, their perceptions definitely hurt. But for the casual gamer, I don't think they know as much of
not at all.
Means. Yeah, they don't know. Like if you tell them,
same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like, I have a lot of people here on X and on YouTube that I speak to that are gamers. I know what their opinions are. I watch their videos or I see their posts on X. So I ask people who are more casual.
Yep.
And they're like, "What are you talking about?"
So it gives you a completely different perspective, and it makes you realize even more like how small the segment of X is. It's a loud segment, but it's so small compared to the actual outside world gamers who most times don't even know what the hell you're talking about. Like I have friends all the time hitting me up like, "Hey, I saw like this headline somewhere like about this is happening, this is closing, or what is this, or what's going on with that, or and it's like, wow, we talk about this all day long.
Let me play devil's advocate here, just so people in the chat can understand. We're going to talk a little bit about both Xbox, PlayStation here. Jack, the reason I want to go to Jack here is, Jack, honestly, you're a PlayStation gamer, and if I'm speaking out of line, you go ahead and said, Mooch, no, that's not true. But you're a PlayStation gamer. You've been pretty critical of PlayStation. The one thing that I think Phil said in that XCast video that that podcast that I really don't agree with is the making of great games doesn't mean you're going to sell consoles. I mean, Jack, the Wii U went through a very rough sales patch, right? The Switch comes out, they make great games, people buy it. Like, you have a situation right now, and that's fine. I want to hear everything you have to say, Jack. If you think the beginning of this year has been rough and you haven't been happy, I want to hear about it. But the thing is just as a consumer, not Mooch, not Jack, not podcasting, just me and you playing video games, you go out and spend $500 on your PlayStation 5 this year. You've got Last of Us 2 remake. You had, Helldivers 2. You had Stellar Blade. You've had Rise of the Ronin. Now, people go, that's not first party. That is a fair criticism. However, to the casual gamer, if it's an exclusive game to a particular console platform, they don't really care who made it. They know that it's only available on that console. So here we are in 2024.
And if it happens often, it'll stick in people's heads and they'll just go with that console.
That's the whole thing. So, Jack, where are you on this when you hear, Phil saying it's not about the games? At the end of the day, the reason PlayStation continues to sell month in and month out, you guys see the estimates that come out, it's because they have games and they're exclusive. Whether they are first party or not, you got a valid gripe with that. But, Jack, what do you think?
He's full of shit. I mean... I got my problems with PlayStation, but it is a reason I still game on PlayStation. I enjoy games from Insomniac and Naughty Dog and Ben Studio. I enjoy these games, right? They're some of my favorite games. Santa Monica. So great. That's just a stupid comment, right?
Yeah. It's crazy.
I don't know. Phil Spencer, he do a lot of double talking. And the problem with Phil, I feel like, and I think somebody said this earlier, he promises stuff he don't know if he can commit to that, right? Just the Xbox brand in general. Them saying every game day one is going to be day one in Game Pass has bit them in the ass repeatedly, right? And on top of that, when they acquired ABK, part of that was they were saying we don't know if we could put COD in there day one, but you purchase it, so now it's a first party game. You promised us, right? On top of that, like it was just stupid, bro. Like a lot of stuff DLC is stupid. You know, a game can come. I forgot it. That XCast interview was a debacle, bro. They was quoting it the other day saying how he was saying like, you know, I'm gonna give Tango Gameworks the creativity and the leeway they need to make whatever they want. People thought they was making Evil Within 3, but they really were making Hi-Fi Rush, and reportedly they was making Hi-Fi Rush 2.
That's right.
You told them to pack their bags and get the hell up out of there.
Yeah.
And then the day after that, the dude that's under you said we need more games like they was making. Well, why did you fire them then? Like, it's ridiculous, bro.
Yeah. That communication thing again. But I was going to say, Mooch, I just wanted to give some data to the point you're because, you know, we can have opinions, but numbers don't lie, right?
That's right.
And I was going to say, like, so I was just going to march Sakana results, like, which is the equivalent of MPD. PlayStation actually has 5 exclusives in the charts for the month and for the entire year. So those games being for the month, it's Helldivers 2, Rise of Ronin, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth.
That's right, Final Fantasy
Horizon
7.
Forbidden West, and Spider-Man 2. And then for the whole year, it's the same again, but Last of Us Part 2 instead of Horizon Forbidden West. So the point is, like, having 5 games in the charts for the whole year of sales, it's a big deal for a single platform. It's more than any other platform. So, like, the notion that, you know, it's weird, even on, like, PlayStation's off year, shall we say, because they don't have that much first-party stuff, they're still managing to occupy this exclusive space where their exclusives are still, you know, still charting really well and dominating sales.
Absolutely. And I want to, Seeds, I'm going to you next after this. Nip, thank you for those numbers, by the way, because you say numbers do not lie. Shout out to the great Tyson Webb. He says, I've been a family member for 3 years now. Tyson Webb, of course, you got a room in the house, buddy. Of course, Tyson. Great to have you here, buddy. I appreciate it. Ocelot says, Jim Ryan, in quotes, I don't want a Call of Duty deal. I'm here to block your merger. Sounds great now, huh? Says Ocelot. Psy38, he says, gamers owe Lena Khan an apology. Well, you know, it's funny. We're going to get into that in a bit, too. There's a lot that goes down with what happened over the years of the FTC CMA trials. And now we're seeing that a lot of the people that were kind of excited for that deal to go through, it really, really did end up, I think, biting a few in the rear end. Because to be honest with you, it's led to where we are today. Shout out to the great Royal Boyle, my New Yorker. He says, what's good, CrossFire Mooch panel chat? Always here to show my brother's support. I hope you all are having a wonderful evening. We are now, Royal. Thank you so much for that super chat. You know what else I got to say here? Shout out to Lucifer, by the way. Lucifer also sent me a great game over on Steam. Really appreciate that, buddy. He says here, Mooch, everything went downhill since Crap Gamer canceled his Quantum Break pre-order. The Crap Gamer curse is real. I got to tell you something, Lou. I don't agree with that. And the reason I don't agree with that is Crap made some outstanding points back then. The things that Crap said were going to happen, as a matter of fact, did end up happening. He said that when you put games day and date, it will eventually lead to the lack of want, if you will, for this certain platform, for the console. So, you know, shout out to Crap for, 2016 when he made that call. But shout out to Lucifer. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you, sir. Detective Seeds, I know that you have been, he must have a number of absolute pages of notes. Seeds, what do you think when you think about all of this here? Do you think that at this point you're even going to see another company want to be acquired by Microsoft, or maybe acquired by anybody at this point? I think maybe that's kind of a dangerous word to use these days in the gaming industry.
Yeah, I think for now we'll probably see a lapse in acquisitions for a while. There's a quote, and I don't remember who the guy was that said it, but he basically said $1 billion here, $1 billion there, sooner or later adds up to real money. And I think for Xbox, they got away, and I think Phil Spencer was actually heading the ship for a while. They were buying up some of these smaller things, and then Bethesda got acquired. And it started to put a little bit more of a microscope on what they were doing.
Yeah.
And then they bought ABK. And that was the catalyst to the higher ups getting further and further involved and saying, hey, we've spent collectively, $100 billion? That's a lot of B's, okay? We need to start seeing this money come back, because at the end of the day, Xbox is a subsidiary of Microsoft, so Microsoft's spending this money. It's almost like a loan shark in a way. They're going to come collect, and you better have their money. And if you don't, what we saw happening this week and what's going to continue to happen is what's going to happen because they're going to find a way to make their money back. When it comes to acquisitions, I'm not going to sit here and be a hypocrite and say that I was not opposed or in favor of the Xbox and ABK deal. The reason I say that is the industry that I work in, our acquisitions are a little bit different than what I would call retail acquisitions in this space. When we acquire a company and we kind of gobble them up, we want to keep what they have and not really trim too much because we want their expertise because they probably have a component or a piece that we really want and include within our own stuff. So it's much different. But I'll tell you what soured me on the acquisition piece that I never really looked into before is when they were doing the FTC hearing and Phil Spencer got an email. I don't remember who it was from. I think it was a project manager or someone within Microsoft. And they asked the specific question, how do we measure success? How do our studios and what is going to be the measurement of success? And I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially didn't know. He was not able to give a real solid answer. And I think if you're a company that is looking to maybe be acquired or has looked at it in the past, that's pretty scary because if you get acquired and you give up that ownership right and you become a part of Microsoft, you don't know what determines your success and your failure at this point. You have no idea because Hi-Fi Rush, by all accounts, was a success for Microsoft. The shadow drop, there was no marketing. It had, what was it, a 96, I think, on Metacritic, and it held. That's good. And they got cut. So it's like, at what point do you figure that out? The other point I want to make real quickly here, I heard someone earlier mention, and I'm not sure if it was just in passing or what, but I think that when it comes to Microsoft and Sony as a whole, we as fans and we as consumers, mainly of maybe consoles, I do have a PC, laptop, and a desktop. I think we really have to stop looking at the PC market as being niche anymore. I looked at some stats whenever I was traveling, and I was trying to kind of understand them. In 2017, there were 33 million daily active users on Steam. In 2018, it was 47 million. In 2020, 62.6. In 2021 was the last data I could get. It was at 69 million.
Wow.
Nice. Daily active users on Steam. And if we see what the PC user base did the last, was it 2 weeks ago, whenever we had the debacle we're going to get into here in a little bit with Helldivers and PSN, that is power. That is consumers using what power they have and leverage they have to give a middle finger to corporations and say, if you do something we don't like, we're going to make you pay in the only way that we possibly can. And I think when companies are looking at possibly getting acquired, they're going to have to go in and really ask those hard questions to companies that are going to buy them and say, what is your solutions to allowing us to take our content into multiple locations? What is your plan for allowing us to sell on multiple ecosystems to have some target of revenue that we need to hit to show success? And if they can't give that, I can't see companies wanting to be acquired here in the future until there's some baseline, especially by Microsoft, on what deems success.
Yeah, no, those are
Luke,
some...
do you mind
ahead.
if I piggyback off that?
Go
Because
ahead,
I've got
Dave.
the email up, right? And I think it's really poignant point that he brought up about the email, because it actually gives us a kind of insight into how Phil Spencer's mind works. So in the email, he's asked, what determines success and what would end up in a studio closure. And Phil Spencer responds, I don't think we've ever closed a studio due to the studio's P&L, right? So already off the bat, it's this kind of, don't really worry about the financials because we've never closed a studio based on how much profit or loss we're making, right? Which is already crazy because in his mindset, it's, I've got a blank check here, so don't worry too much about it. And then the person responds, honestly, I don't know. I don't really know what goes into closing a studio, how much funding versus personal versus output feeds into the decision. This is not armchair quarterbacking, I swear. I'm just super worried about the moat that you've built, that the winds will change and we will have a bloodbath a few years down the road, especially given our peer cloud companies underestimating the game creation process. So, like, people around him were concerned, and I guess he himself didn't know what metrics would be used going forward, or if P&L, profit and loss, would even come into it. But sure enough, I assume it has.
And that's a problem. That is a problem if you're a company that is looking to be acquired, because you need to be able to have. I mean, I work in the sales world. I have to have metrics that I hit. Like if I enter in a $1 million order, they may say, "Hey, good job." It doesn't really raise a lot of eyebrows. If I have a $5 or $10 million possibility that's going, it's going to raise some eyebrows because I have metrics I have to hit. These companies have to know what metrics they have to hit, and if their game goes on Game Pass, there's really no. And I'm not going to sit here and overly bash Game Pass because I'm a consumer of it. I have 2 kids in my house. They use Game Pass, and I've gotten my money's worth out of it. So I'm not going to sit here and say I don't use it because I'd be a hypocrite. But I think that if you are going to take those games and only put them on Game Pass, then the studio needs to be judged on how many downloads and how many interactions they had with that game.
That's right.
Because if you're not going to sell it on PS5, which I think that they're going forward now for those higher revenue targets, what's the point of the studio making a game if it's going to go on Game Pass and you can't tell them what's good and what's bad? Like that point is what turned me off of the deal going through, because I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me from a corporate standpoint of not having those answers for an acquisition. That could be a problem down the road, and it's a problem.
Yeah, no, shout out to the great Jimmy Harrison. He says, good to see you, brothers. Always good to see Jack Move. He goes, what's up, bro? There you go, Jack, fan of yours in the chat, the great Jimmy Harrison. I do have
yes, sir.
Want to say real quick, the great Eric Jackson. Eric, we've been waiting all week for this one, Eric. I got to go ahead and ask you this question because me and Eric been talking about it for a very long time. I'd almost say years. Eric, my question for you is, how did the media and experts not realize Game Pass wouldn't work? Or I shouldn't say wouldn't work, but wouldn't come to the fruition of numbers that were earlier said. Game Pass, and also we're talking about possibly another Game Pass price increase, and we'll get into all of that with possibly the Call of Duty franchise entering that service. But you had lots of analysts, you had a lot of influencers saying this is going to work. This is going to work, and Microsoft's in it for the long haul. They've got a tremendous amount of cash. They can sit there, they can ride it out. But the thing is, and I say this all the time, Eric, people who are rich hate to lose money. They hate losing money, right? Probably.
Funny how that works,
right? Isn't that odd, Eric? I know, it's crazy. But what is it that happened earlier this generation where it was Game Pass is great, and now the articles come out, and now the articles are like, maybe after all this time, Game Pass is, the model itself is a failure. And I think, Eric, just to go ahead and quote you, we ingest this kind of media differently. You can put Netflix on and fall asleep. You can say, I was binge watching 8 episodes of whatever, and I fell asleep on the 3rd episode. You can't just turn a game on and take a nap. So my point is that, like you said, it's a time consuming. We just had this conversation last week on the show about how people were saying certain games that are going 50, 60, 70, 80 hours. That's a lot when you've got 3 games or 2 games coming out a month. People can't, with their lives and kids and sports and this and that and everything else going on and work and lives. It's a lot when these games are 75, 80 hours a pop. So when somebody says to you, Eric, aren't you going to miss if you leave Game Pass and you don't have 250 games in your library tomorrow? Well, not necessarily. You're going to play the 2 to 3 games that you truly love and enjoy, and you don't mind buying those games. The other games, don't get me wrong, it's nice to have them there. I get that. But this model just didn't seem to work outside of the hardcore.
No, that's 100%. I think I said once on Crossfire that, as the type of game that I am, like I always have something I want to play. And a lot of times I have a hard time deciding what in my collection of things do I want to play, right? And I kind of put out there, I said, sometimes, again, Game Pass can be a value for somebody, but I know the way I play and the things that I do, it isn't always a value because I can't always get to what was either dropping it I may have been interested in, but wasn't interested in more so than something else that I already bought, right? So after a while, it starts to feel a little bit overwhelming because there's so much in it. And that was me giving it props because there is a lot there. On paper, it sounds like the coolest thing ever. And what did most of us say when it dropped? Man, damn, back in the day when I was off, school in the summer, whatever, this would have been great to have something like this, possibly, right? But that's not the reality. So, I caught a little bit of flack in your comment section for saying that I felt overwhelmed. Oh, now Game Pass is overwhelming. Yeah, it is. It is, because even if you're subscribing like month to month to month and you're not really getting to anything, you're just trying out a bunch of stuff, that's fine. But is that really still a value? If I've been, is it more of a value for me just to pay the 60 to 70 for this game that I'm going to spend 40, 50, 60 hours with, over the next month and a half, maybe even, possibly the way my life is 2 months, was it still a value for me to keep kicking out 15 when I haven't really seen anything else in the service? So
exactly.
That's kind of how I look at it, but back to what you originally said, I think there's absolutely been people in the media who were talking about, can Game Pass really work? Sean Layden was definitely like a person.
Yes,
pundit,
he was. Somebody
from the industry saying it. I know Colin Moriarty was somebody that was saying it, and it's usually always met with, well, they're fanboys of a certain platform. And it's like, it's not always fanboying when people talk about realities of things.
That's right.
Because on the reverse side of that, it's fanboying to accept it all and just act like everything's good.
Well, no, I agree with you, Eric. And I mean, listen, I'm kind of in Jack's spot. Like, I still have, I had the dollar deal that went till where that ended. And just before they completely ended it, I was able to matched my gold. And I think I had to end up paying, it was a one-time fee of $15 for the Ultimate. And it matched what I had for gold. So I still have Ultimate Game Pass until I want to say early 25.
Mooch, I've done that twice.
Yeah, right. Is that still?
I have like 7 years from it. That's crazy.
And it's
mine is running out because I was using the rewards to like kind of fund mine, and now they completely gutted the reward.
Yeah, program. The rewards is over too now. But I mean,
So
no, but like I said, and like you said, it's not about fanboying to one particular. I have Game Pass. I'm just telling you right now. Like, Jack, I want to go back to Jack real quick here, because Jack, the one thing that you always talk about online is you constantly show, this is what I love about Jack, like Jack plays games, period. I think if you don't understand that, go follow him on Twitter, because you need to understand this. The man plays games. Jack, if I said to you, Jack, here's 300 games for this year, knock yourself out. Now, they're not games that you necessarily said you wanted, but I give you 300. Like, you already go, Mooch, listen, I appreciate the gift. Thank you. I really do. But I got 2 games a month coming out from now until the end of the year. Maybe I'll sneak one of these games you gave me in the summer where there's a little bit of a swoon there. We don't have it. We don't have a lot of games coming out. But Jack, like, that's the one thing I've been preaching a lot on the channel is do casuals who play 1 or 2 games a year, and even hardcore who have their dedicated favorite games coming out once a month, who's also going to dip into like 3 or 4 or 5, 6 games a month or every 2 months on Game Pass. That was the one thing that I always thought. Jack, for someone like you that plays a lot of video games, where was there value for Game Pass for you?
When I had Game Pass, I don't currently have it right now, but I would say, yeah, the reason I use Game Pass personally is because, like, y'all know I don't really mess with Xbox like that, but Game Pass was a good reason for me to play some of the Xbox exclusives that I wanted to try out.
That's right.
So
that's true.
It was cool for that, but for like multi-plats, or I'm not really a big PC gamer either. So for me, it's like, you know what I mean? If I really want to play like an Ori or a Cuphead, yeah, I'm tapping into that. But other than that, even with like streaming services, bro, like Netflix have so many documentaries and movies they recommend. I might watch trailers and watch 2 minutes and turn it off. Right? I'm watching everything for 2-3 minutes. Right?
Yes.
So Game Pass, I would say, is beneficial to the consumer, but it's just counterproductive, man, because not only are they actively promoting not buying games, they're also actively promoting not beating games. It's all about messaging with Xbox, man. That
was wild, Jack, seeing that, man. Like, it's okay to not.
Exactly. Going back to Netflix, right? You remember when Netflix used to tweet out, "Oh, we love for y'all to share passwords and do all that." So now when they start to lose, the money wasn't looking right. Well, actually, we don't want y'all doing it. As a matter of fact, if you are sharing passwords, we're going to charge you more money, right? So how did y'all go from that? See, so it's mixed messaging, man. You tweeting out don't beat games. It's tweeting out it's okay to be bad. I mean, just stupid shit. Like, bro, it's a defeatist mentality. It's a defeatist mindset. The head of the company, Big Boss Phil Spencer, saying we don't need to make good games. Good games don't matter. You had the developers of Gears, I believe, saying it's hard to make games with good writing and stories if you're killing people. Like, what the fuck? What are y'all talking about over there, bro? Like, It's just ridiculous, man. I don't get it.
They have a participation trophy culture.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
If I may say
Go ahead,
something
RG.
about this, though, because I think that when compared to all of you guys, I think that I am on the opposite side, side of the spectrum, meaning that I still love my Xbox, and I still love my Game Pass very, very much, and I renew it every year. I really love my Game Pass because every time when I don't have something to play, although because companies they are sending me codes for games to stream every month, but still it is always nice to go onto Game Pass and find something new every month, every week. And also there is something else that you guys haven't considered, I think. Here in Greece, our salaries, they are very, very low. Very, so low. And there are people here who simply cannot afford to get a game every 6 months. So these people who have... for those people who have an Xbox Game Pass subscription, Game Pass has helped them immensely in to play games without having to bust their budget every month. Because here in my country and in the Macedonia and Bulgaria and Romania, salaries are very, very low. So Game Pass for us, even though Xbox is not very popular in my country or in the other countries that I mentioned, I believe that Game Pass, that it is a very, very good thing. I cannot think that Game Pass is something that has no value. And there is the other thing also, because I hear you guys saying about why Game Pass hasn't been so successful all these years. Think about it. Xbox doesn't have first-party games that are on the same caliber as Sony games. They simply don't have their own God of War or Horizon Forbidden West or the Ghost of Tsushima. They don't have a game yet, apart from Starfield, maybe, but that one on its own, it is not enough. They don't have a game yet that is on Game Pass and that is going to make people and say, I want to go and get Game Pass
Like
in order to play that game.
RG, you're saying they don't have a service. They don't have a service seller. That's what they don't have. Like, you know,
exactly my point.
Yeah.
So if there is one reason why Game Pass hasn't been so successful all these years, or maybe as successful as MS wants, it is because still, after 4 years into this generation, Microsoft doesn't have banger games that can actually make people talk about them and want them. So this is another reason why Game Pass hasn't gone up. We've been
on that conversation for years.
Yeah.
I have the block list to prove. You know, even back with the introduction of the One X, and we were like, it was the power discussion, and they were saying, you know, we're gonna have the most powerful consoles. Like, okay, but what game do you have to present for this case? And that was never the thing. So they put the cart, in my opinion, as an Xbox fan, because I was an Xbox fan, Mooch tell you, through OG, 360, and the whole nine.
Yep.
I was like, where is the game that shows that? Where, you know,
exactly, yeah,
you haven't done that, and they did it twice. They came with the Series X. Here it is, and they showed Hellblade. And now we're just not getting Hellblade, and they don't seem to give a damn about it. You know, it's like it's kind of been like this whole. It's kind of been this thing because it was like Jack could tell you wait till E3. That was, anytime you brought it up, wow, we just wait till E3. That was done. We had like 4 E3s that belonged to Don Matrick 5-6 years after he was gone. Now this one is still E3. This is when it's really gonna pop. You know,
I remember that too.
So, you know,
RGG, I did have a question just for my own context. How much is Game Pass Ultimate per year in Greece?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. I have to watch it, but I think 130 euros per year. I think. I'm not
Really?
sure.
That's cheap. That's much cheaper than everywhere.
125, I think, something like that.
But for Ultimate?
Yeah.
What is it in the UK, Nip?
Like 180, I think, or 190 pounds. I think euros is
pounds.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
It's $210. So roughly 179. I could be wrong by like 10, 15 pounds, but I think it's like roughly 170 to 180 pounds. And last I checked in euros, it was similar. So I'm very surprised if it's that much cheaper in Greece than the rest of Europe.
I have to look it up then, because maybe I am saying to you a price that it is much.
Do you pay for it yourself, Kelsey?
I paid for it myself last year.
Okay.
This year, however, I got sent a Game Pass code from Xbox UK. Yeah.
So let me ask this question. We welcome the great Brap to the show. Brap, great to have you here tonight. TC, what is it that Game Pass Ultimate's costing in Canada? Wanted to see if we can get the right here in the United States. It's $16.99 a month. I think it's roughly around $204 a month. Am I right there, you guys? Check my math. Something, just around say 200, just for conversation piece. What are we talking about in Canada, TC?
I'm not sure. I'll be honest. I unsubscribed from Game Pass like early last year or something like that. And when I first got it, I got it because I like doubled up or tripled up. I forgot how many times on Xbox Live. So I'm not really sure how much it is in Canada, but whatever it is in the US, our monopoly money it's more than that. it's more than that. So you said how much is it in the US per year?
It's $16.99 a month. So roughly,
yeah.
200,
how much is a?
200,
can you not get a year pass for Game Pass?
Guys, I don't think there's a Brap. Is there a discount?
No, there isn't.
There's not a discount, right? No, I didn't think so.
Yeah, I just checked. In Canada, it's 19 Canadian dollars a month.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of where we are. Brap, I'll welcome you to the show. Brap, welcome. And, where we kind of were right now is... Good evening, buddy. Eric Jackson led us off with this because me and E talk about it. And I know that you guys were talking about it on Brap for a long time as well. Brap, basically, how did the media and the experts out there, the analysts, not realize that the Game Pass model... Shout out to the great Sean Layden who said this, and shout out also to What's Up PlayStation. Shout out to Jay Barry and the great Gaming with Persona. He said this on their show live with them as they interviewed him. Guys, go over and check out What's Up PlayStation, 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. I got to tell you guys, that was an outstanding interview, first of all. Second of all, when you hear it from somebody in the industry, Brap, and then we're hearing from like the Michael Pachters of the world that no, don't worry, Game Pass is the future. Brap, now we're seeing articles come out saying maybe this wasn't the right model.
Yeah, that's it. It's interesting, Mooch. I think early on, maybe the media just didn't know, because I think on paper, Game Pass sounds like a great idea. It sounds like wow, like day and date. I mean, I remember when they announced Game Pass back in 2017. I was like, oh my god, like if I get like 4, I was doing the math at the time. Games were $60. Like if I get like 4 games, 3 or 4 like AAA games, first party games a year from them, or at least 3 or 4 AAA games coming into the service. Yeah, plus everything else, I'm good. Well, and I think not until I think people started, and I say people, but people in the industry and analysts started really looking at things, then it's like, and I think once you started hearing the Strauss Zelnick of the worlds, Strauss Zelnick was like, look, it doesn't make sense to release a game day and date AAA game day and date to a subscription service because you cannibalize sales.
Yep.
Most people play maybe 3 or 4 games a year. It doesn't make sense. Then you have Sean Layden saying like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. He said he talked about this like numerous occasions on What's Up PlayStation podcast when he talked about how you have to like spread the nickels around. There's only so many nickels that go around. Like it takes money to bring that content in. It takes money to prop up Game Pass on the back end. I mean, there are expenses associated with Game Pass. It isn't like free money, and I think people maybe thought it was free money. But then you hear Sean Layden, and he got a lot of slack for this. I remember it's funny. He pointed to an article. I believe it was an interview that he did with I think it was PCMag.com, and he suggested that Xbox Game Pass is only viable with 500 million subscribers.
Yep, that was the number.
Yeah, and I don't think there was an issue. Idle Sloth had tweeted something out today, and it kind of gave a breakdown of Game Pass. He tweeted something that a former employee at EA Microsoft had said about Game Pass, and how the economic dynamics changed drastically when they bought ABK, and I think it was good as long as Game Pass was good as long as it would grow, but it hasn't grown.
Right. That's a big issue.
It's stuck, and it's not just. By the way, it's not because other people are like, oh, you guys just pick on Xbox all the time. It's not just Game Pass; it's subscriptions in general. Game subscriptions.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, PlayStation's having the same issue.
That's
like
right.
Matt Piscatella said, non-mobile subscription services have either stalled or like in single-digit growth. And if you're not growing Game Pass, and I think Microsoft was really banking on the fact that that Game Pass was going to continue to grow because it was growing. I forget what it was like in 2021 maybe, or I forget the numbers. I'm going to say the time period between 2019 and 2021. It was growing, but during that time period there was this thing called COVID, and then it seemingly just stopped in its tracks. And now we know that, and for years we didn't know what the number was, and now we know the number's about 30 something million. But that's on top of the 13. I forget how many people they moved over from Game Pass Gold to Game Pass.
Yeah, Nib gave the numbers earlier in the show.
Okay, so I missed it. Yeah,
I don't know what it is. What it was, the split was in 2024, but in 2022 it was 11.7 million on Gold and 25 million Game Pass. So it should have been 37 million. We're at 34 million. So somewhere, whether it's Gold or Game Pass, there's been decline.
Yeah, so I mean, think of it like this, Mooch. Everyone was like, "It's a great deal." It's going to do game. It's going to change the game.
It's going to change the industry. Yeah.
I mean, like, and people need to stop doing that. For the love of God, like, stop.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pick on the Xbox community here and the Xbox content creators. They're always on the wrong side of history. They're always stepping on the rake. Stop prophesizing. Just wait for things to play out. But they said, "Oh, it's gonna change the industry," and it hasn't. I mean, you look at what Microsoft's debating internally. Should we put Call of Duty into Game Pass? The reason they're having that debate because they know that it's going to cannibalize a lot of revenue. It doesn't make sense for them. And so, with the media, I think they just. I'm giving them a benefit of the doubt. I don't think they knew. But I do, and I did see them as Sean Layden was talking about Game Pass, Strauss Zelnick. We had some developers question it. They started reporting those things, but honestly, I don't think they really knew because they're not finance people. They don't understand. I think or maybe they didn't ask those questions. Maybe they should have asked those pointed questions of Microsoft, like, "Hey, explain the math. How does this work? How do you make something like Game Pass work? How does a $300 million game go into Game Pass day and date? Mm-hmm. How do you recoup that investment? And then how do you spread those pennies around the other games that are going into the content?" So, it's just a lot of us question Game Pass and for quite some time. And a lot of what we question, we're starting to see that now.
Well, the one thing, Brett, that I questioned a lot as we saw Game Pass kind of transpire into what Microsoft almost made their brand even more than the console is the quality of games. And it kind of leads me to my next topic. And if whoever wants to chime in here, we've gone around now a few times. this is the one thing. The report, and I believe, guys, don't quote me. I believe it was Jeff Grubb that reported it. Shout out to the great Jeff Grubb. But I think he's saying that he heard, and if I'm wrong, guys, please correct me. He heard that Perfect Dark is reported to be in rough shape. And listen, I'm not even talking, right? So I'm not even talking about that, right? Thank you. And I appreciate that, Brett. I think that when it comes down to it, it's the quality that bothers me. Let's not talk about, just Game Pass. Because if you like Game, shout out to Mash who's in the chat right now. He's like, Mooch, honestly, he's like, I hear what you're saying. He goes, but while it's here, I'm enjoying Game Pass. And you heard RGG say it. That's fine. That's awesome, by the way. More power to everybody that's enjoying it. But the quality of games seems to decline. I mean, you're seeing it over and over. And even from what we're seeing, guys, think about it for a second. Go back and watch Avowed when they showed us, of course, with just the thought process of what it was. And it was just CGI, whatever. Then you saw the next iteration of it. Then you saw another snippet of it. Avowed is looking worse and worse every time we see it. You're seeing that the Dream Team, they put a Dream Team together in the initiative to make Perfect Dark, and the Dream Team is having a hard time making this game come through. It's just
now it's Crystal Dynamics, right?
That's right, Crystal Dynamics, who's helping the initiative, right? It's supposed to be a co-op experience or a collaborative effort. Nib, 100%. But Nib, that's what I'm trying to say is like I'm seeing quality drop. Like, where's the rest of the campaign from Halo? Where's and I know we're going to see a big thing with Gears, which, by the way, I'm very excited for Gears. Very excited for Gears. But like, I'm holding out hope that the coalition's really busting their ass, pardon my French, to be able to say, they are all hopefully putting together one hell of a game. I haven't seen, like, RGG. Nib, where is the one game that you say, I have to have Game Pass, I have to have it, I want this game?
I'm going to be honest with you, Mooch. I don't think we're going to see it to Elder Scrolls 6. I have to be honest.
That's a long time.
See it as being... I don't see it as being Avowed, or maybe Fable. Maybe Fable has a chance.
Maybe
so Fable or Elder Scrolls 6.
That's
but
fair.
To your point, and like Hellblade's coming, and to be fair, I am actually excited to play it. I don't think it's going to be like a Game of the Year type quality caliber game. But there is a part of me, I have to be honest, like, I am a little bit disappointed because I'm thinking this game has been in the cooker for so many years, like 6 years, 7 years, whatever it is, right? And we've seen so many sort of like these tech insights into it. Here we're in Iceland, we're doing this photogrammetry and I'm thinking, oh wow, they're spending a lot of money on this. Like, this is a bigger, bolder project. And we've been, they announced it in 2019 or something, like however long ago that was. So I'm thinking now they have Microsoft money behind them. They're taking a long time with it. It's a bigger team. So I'm thinking it's going to be a much more ambitious game. But then maybe it still will be. But when the director came out and said, look, it's kind of like similar and it's going to be a similar length, in my head I just thought, oh, that's a bit surprising to me. Like, I really thought it was going to be a much bigger game. And that's kind of the way the fandom was selling it as well, right? Similar to Halo. I remember the conversation around Halo at the time was, new slip space engine, new open world, and that's kind of again how they advertised it was, here you go, there's like gazelles walking in the desert, and there's this and that, cats out on the mat, and it's like that didn't really come to fruition. And I kind of have a bit of that with Hellblade 2 as well. So a part of me is thinking, well, what are these studios doing? Like, why are they having so much trouble with Perfect Dark, and why are all these games? Where's Everwild, and what's going on over there? Like, are they like spiking the drinks or something and making them all drunk? Like, there has to be slightly tighter quality control and efficiency in the cadency of these releases and development, at least from my perspective.
I want to see more from, like, I know they just showed us a bit of it, but these teams have been working for a while. Like, what is it, Clockwork Revolution, and what's going on with a few of the other teams? What's Double Fine working on? And you may say, well, they showed a lot of games. They have, but I mean, they also have a lot of teams, and they've been working diligently for quite some time. Go ahead.
36 studios.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in there real quick on this one. I think that when Phil Spencer said, I support creative vision, I'm paraphrasing, I think he truly believes that. The problem is, I think that creative vision that he was supporting on these studios wasn't well managed and looked after. Yeah, that's going to change. And I think that one of the other things, I guess it kind of hits on the last point we talked about with the media and influencers. Xbox's communication with their community, you're about to get the Sony treatment. And what I mean by that is the days, they may still have some where they meet up for breakfast and stuff like that, but your days of getting that type of access in the community and those grassroots kind of movement that they were looking to try to do, that's over. And I have a great relationship. I mean, people can call me a Sony opponent if they want. I don't give a damn. I have a great relationship with PlayStation, with their talent team. Worked with them numerous times, and I have a really good relationship with them. They don't tell you anything. No. If you get information from someone, it's because you've made a friend at a studio who's a little bit more lax. And I think that the team that handles all of Xbox's press, which is I don't want to put their name out there in case they get blown up in emails, but
don't have to.
They handle most of that in the marketing and reaching out to influencers and doing those things. That I believe is going to change because Microsoft's going to tighten that wrench and go, this is corporate now. This is how we're going to do it. It's very emotionless. It's numbers driven. These cuts and the things that they're doing and what we're seeing and them trying to make these changes, there's no emotion behind it. And I think that because there was so much emotion invested in with influencers in the community and all of us, I mean, I think most of us, it sounds like pretty much grew up playing Xbox and we remember The Rock showing up and just all that crazy stuff that was going on. It kind of felt more community oriented. That is going to go away. It's going to become more corporate oriented because you have all these billions of dollars that have been spent. They're going to recoup that money, and that's how they're going to do it. They're going to ratchet down, and unfortunately, with the influences in the media, when your family does something that you don't like, there's going to be a sting there. And I think the reason that so many Xbox, especially the very, very, very hardcore guys, they feel that sting is because they did put a lot of faith. They stuck up for Xbox. We may say they had talking points and things like that, but they may have believed some of that stuff that they were told. I don't know. I wasn't in the conversations.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, if your family or you consider someone to be close to you, they do something that you have tried to defend them against, that's going to sting. And I think a lot of the guys right now, unfortunately, are going through that sting period where they're seeing, hey, this is not the Xbox that I've supported for this many years and got behind it. There's a change, and that change is Microsoft, and they're going to take over just like PlayStation runs their business. It's very business oriented. Someone said earlier we don't hear a lot of communication from them. It's going to be the same from Xbox.
No, see,
can I piggyback?
You're already kind of seeing it. Like they're not tweeting as much directly.
That's right.
Like the fan base anymore. Like I don't think Phil has actually tweeted anything as far as just retweeting some things or talking directly about a game in particular, and that's about it.
Somebody blew up his Fallout 76 compound and he didn't say a word. I wanted a tweet to at least say, who the fuck blew up my compound? That's all I wanted to see.
Yeah.
No, you know what though, Eric and Detective Seeds are spot on. Like we've heard from people, like we had Mag on last night on Brap, which goes live every Wednesday night, 9 p.m.
Hey, nice plug, Brap.
Yeah, shameless plug.
Brap, before you say that, I just want to let you know you're not a real person.
Yes, I'm not a real person. But Mag talked about this, and I've heard this term used from other people who've talked to people at Xbox. I think Tim even mentioned this too when he was on CrossFire last. This internal civil war, and you have the Xbox camp, and then you got Microsoft. I mean, I'm reading as we have this conversation, I'm reading Ryan McCaffrey's article, and he's talking to somebody who it sounds like this person was formerly at Xbox, and he's like, look, like. The growth, the acquisition growth, or the growth as a result of acquisitions has increased oversight from Microsoft. And I'm like, yeah, like no shit. Like you spend $80 billion on acquisitions.
Yeah.
Amy Hood's looking at the numbers. And this is why I said to people got upset when I was pointing to the Q3 numbers, 30% decline year over year hardware. That's not good. That's not good. And people are like, oh, but they made so much money, like $60 million in game revenue. I forget what it was, but I'm like, yeah, but that's all Activision. If you subtract ABK, the Xbox business was minus 4%.
Yeah.
And the CFOs are looking at that and they're like it isn't like we don't want Activision to be making up for the rest of the business. The rest of the business has to do their part, contribute. We can't be having the rest of the business eating to the profit margins that Activision, Blizzard King bring in.
Right.
That's not smart business. No companies want to lose money like that. You don't want to, and especially with the shareholders now. The shareholders are like, wait a minute, you guys just spent $80 billion in cash. We have these AI initiatives we could have used that money for. We want our money, but we got to see some ROI here, people.
That's right.
And so there's a lot of eyes on this, and I think that's why you're seeing some of these changes. And I think Phil's kind of in a hard spot. I was listening on the way back from baseball, and I think it was Nib talked about the email. Somebody's like, I'm not trying to Monday morning quarterback, but we're going to create this moat. There's going to be a bloodbath, something to that effect. That is kind of happening right now, and I don't think, I've been hearing that there's more layoffs coming. Jason Schreier's reported that there's more layoffs coming. I don't think this is the end.
It's
I don't
not.
think this is the end.
I have a friend of mine. It's the whole. Trust me, bro. I have a friend of mine that works at ZeniMax, and talked to them the last couple of weeks, and it's not done. They're looking for other gigs because they're not sure. They're offering severances throughout ZeniMax, and so
can I chime in real quick? I'm sorry, Seeds. So you just said they're offering severance, like they're offering voluntary like severance, right?
They are.
Right?
They're going through certain areas within the organization. They're offering voluntary severances to certain areas.
So when that happens, they have a number in mind of people they want to accept that.
Correct.
If not enough people accept those voluntary severances, you're going to see another layoff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this happens there. It's not just. I don't really want to listen and saying this is just Xbox Game Studios. This happens everywhere.
Yeah,
this is everywhere, and that's why you have to understand, like, whether it's Sony, Microsoft, whoever, corporations aren't your friend. They're not your buddies. No. You may hang out with them and have breakfast with them and throw up X signs and stuff like that. But when at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You could throw up PlayStation signs, whatever, put the logo on it. At the end of the day, when it's between them making profit and you, it's going to be their profit. It doesn't matter. They're not your friend. They're not your buddy. And that grassroots movement that went on, I can't blame the influencers for jumping on board with that. I can't.
No,
it would be, you can't blame them for doing that. But I think that mistake was made there of trust, and you can't trust those corporations like your friend because they're not your friend. Phil Spencer might be a nice guy, but at the end of the day, he didn't become, the head of Xbox by being a nice guy his whole life. He's a businessman. It is what it is.
Yeah,
but I was just going to piggyback off what you're saying, right? So, after ABK, they're tightening the screws, right? There's more scrutiny, which is what Jason Schreier's reported. I think Tom Warren, he had a similar article from The Verge today, and he was saying actually more cuts are coming. He was saying,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think I'll just read the quote. There are whispers among employees that core Xbox game studios are set for cutbacks next. But yeah, on the point about ABK, you're saying they need to make that money back. So the last fiscal year operating income that we have for ABK is 1.67 billion in the fiscal year 22. I think it ends in 23. But 1.67 billion. Just to put it into context, like that would take them 45 years to pay off their 75 billion, asset transfer or whatever cost. So for them, you can't actually just rely on ABK. They actually need ABK to grow. They need Xbox business to grow to make that purchase worthwhile, right? Because with the premium they paid and with the cost they paid, it's beyond the scope of normal yield. Like normally when you buy a company, it's like usually 10 years you can pay off the cost that you've paid, but this is like going to stretch much longer than that because there's been a bit of a post-COVID operating income reduction, with cost increases in the Ukraine situation and everything like that, and energy costs going up, etc., etc. But the point is, like, 45 years to pay off your amount, it's not good business. So they actually need to massively increase their profitability and business metrics. But unfortunately now they have 36 studios after the foreclosures, 36 studios that they have to pay for per annum, which is astronomical. And PlayStation is in a similar predicament. Mm-hmm. They have like 23 studios they have to pay for, and going up from 11. Like, it's such a huge increase in operational cost per year.
Yeah, you hear all these numbers too that Nib is reporting here. So, Jack, I want to ask Jack a question here. Jack, do you think, do you see yourself buying Hellblade 2? Whether it be on your Xbox, will you be playing it on Game Pass? Will you buy it on PC? Or are you going to wait to see if? And the reason I say if, it's not really an if anymore, Jack, is it? Like, the money that needs to be made back from this, and we're seeing the drastic actions that are coming, the cuts that are coming. This isn't coming because they're bored. It's because they need to make that money back. It's. I wouldn't say it's a sure thing, because you can never speak in absolutes on the internet, Jack, but it's probably coming to PS5. I mean, are you picking up Hellblade 2, and where are you going to play it?
Ooh, that's a layered question right there.
Yes, sir.
It's somebody that is somebody. I'm gonna be real. I do hate the fact that Microsoft putting their games on Nintendo and PlayStation. I don't like that for competition's sake. However, as somebody that pre-ordered and played the first Hellblade,
yep,
I won't be mad if it come to PS5. All right? But I do got a gaming laptop. I'm gonna be honest too. See, this is I'm a scumbag with this shit, right? So this is what I'm trying to do. I know I could probably get they send content creators free Game Pass all the time. So I'm gonna either apply for some free Game Pass, or they also, this website, they also put the games up there for review codes, right? Like, I got a review code for Gears 5. I barely played the game, but I'm gonna try to either a review code for the game or free Game Pass. If I don't get either one of those, I will either buy Game Pass or I will just buy the game on Steam. But I do want to play it though. I was a big fan of the first Hellblade.
Okay, so I'm glad Jack ran through the gambit there. So everyone heard that, where you can buy them, how he feels about that. Eric, let me ask you a question. Now that we're talking about this, and honestly, let me just go ahead and just read the title here. And I like to quote the source here, Jason Schreier from Bloomberg. And he says here, Microsoft's Xbox is planning more cuts after studio closings. And this is exactly what Seeds was just saying. Xbox is offering voluntary severances agreements to producers, quality assurance testers, and other staff at ZeniMax as part of a broader cost-cutting initiative. So my question is, Eric, is Ninja Theory safe?
I'll be real. I don't know at this point of any, maybe even outside of the core, like 343, the Coalition, everything like that. I would almost wonder if they're all like case by case, at this point.
As it should be, right? I mean, if you perform well, you're rewarded. If you're not, I guess, but what is
performing?
But what is right? What's the metric? Right? What's the metric that they're supposed to hit? Right.
Yeah, because for all intents and purposes, I mean, Hi-Fi Rush was, we saw Aaron Greenberg's tweet about it and everything else. Like you said, Grubb mentioned everything. That was theoretically a success for them as far as fans reacting to it and everything else, and they're gone. So no, I can't say for sure that Ninja Theory is safe, because it's kind of taken them a while to get this game out. We've heard early previews say that it's going to be like a fantastic game. It's not going to be like a big title, as far as, I don't think necessarily moving any needles or anything like that. So who knows? Honestly, who knows, dude?
Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, are we done? TC, I like to bug TC with these, because TC always kind of chuckles and goes, I don't know, Mooch. I don't. But TC, do you think we're done hearing about because Eric was right. Greenie and a bunch of others came out and said, and I listen, I don't have the tweet in front of me. 4 million people stopped by and played, Hi-Fi Rush. Great, right? Everything was great. And then we find out that Tango Gameworks is being closed because not enough people supported the game. So, which is it? Are we going to hear any more, TC, that 25 million people stopped by on week 1? Are we going to hear those numbers, those engagement numbers anymore, or is that also going to be something that we really don't see Xbox kind of bragging about moving forward? That's maybe why they're deciding right now as we speak what games will and what games will not make their way over to Nintendo and PlayStation.
So one thing about the Hi-Fi Rush and success story there, I saw somebody make a reasonable point, was that the studio itself isn't fully just Hi-Fi Rush. There was a smaller team on there, apparently.
Yeah.
So while that game succeeded, maybe, again, their reasoning was they wanted more games, smaller games, and they wanted those games out just to kind of sustain Game Pass in a certain degree.
Yeah.
But those metrics even when those metrics were going out back then, I think a lot of people were calling them out. They're like, okay, but how many did you sell? And they really can't track that, because a lot of these people just played on Game Pass. It's not like PlayStation, when you see God of War sold, what is it? Was it 11 million in 3 months or something like that? Or something like that. I don't know. I forget that number. You're not going to see that from Xbox, but I don't know how much value they see in just giving us player numbers. Is that really? Do they see people really reacting to that?
That's what I'm saying. Is that really a flex?
Yeah, that's my point with there. Because even when it was coming out, I think people were trying to dig out like, yeah, but what's the sales numbers and the usual, people, that support Xbox, which I get, they're fans. Kind of try to float that out there as something like huge, and then you'll see PlayStation sell like 5 million of Spider-Man 2, and then it'd be like, why didn't it sell 10? And it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? It's gonna sell that at one point. Does it have to sell 10 right now? And then you'll see the same people cheer when Resident Evil sells a few million copies, and it's like, hey man, that was on all platforms. Well, why is Spider-Man not selling that
TC,
much? Like 10 million day one, a bad thing.
TC, you had PlayStation. The numbers came out. Sea of Thieves on PlayStation, number 1. And Nib, I know I'm really curious what Nib's going to say as well. But TC, what do you think? Sea of Thieves, number 1 in the EU, number 3 in the US. I mean, that's big on those are the PlayStation hit chart right there as far as PlayStation Store downloads.
Yeah, PSN chart.
So the thing about that is, I think Xbox is also reaching out to people because I've had Xbox send me codes for Grounded Sea of Thieves, which I want to tap into. But Sea of Thieves itself, so at the beginning, I heard it wasn't that great, but throughout the time that it was out, I've heard it's gone better and better and better and better.
Yep.
And I wonder if it's word of mouth. I wonder if it's people that on PlayStation have seen, they wanted that Black Flag experience as a full online game, and they've seen Sea of Thieves kind of grow its own community on Xbox and PC. And maybe they wanted to get in on that on PlayStation, because I've heard it's a good game on Xbox and PC, and I've heard that there's a good community there, and I've heard that they get content and stuff like that. So I think that's what. And again, PlayStation gamers, we buy games. That's pretty much all there is to it. We buy games, and I think Sea of Thieves they took the PlayStation approach to push a game out. It just sucks that they can't do that on their own platform.
Well, that's the thing. So, and it's funny because, Eric, you remember we talked about this. I got to say it again. I always said, why didn't they do the double dip? If they were going to do Game Pass or they were going to do the PC thing like they did, do what PlayStation's doing. Double dip. You wait 12 months, wait 6 months, and then put it in the service. Sales, now they're going back to sales. They want to sell their games, Eric. I mean, I know that's a revolutionary thought. But I mean, right? So before they were like, you don't need to do it. That's the old mentality thought. That's that old school thought. Well, now they're doing that, and they're reaping the benefits of it over on PlayStation.
It's crazy when you think about it, right? This game released in 2017, and it's number 1 in the PSN charts in the EU. That's crazy. But what I will say is, like, there is, and I feel bad saying this, but there's a level of care and curation in how they are bringing Sea of Thieves to the PS5 that doesn't even exist with Hellblade 2. So they've got like exclusive, items and things like that, and then the blowout on the content, and they're talking about how they're going to have, they're changing their engine or whatever to help with the new season pass or whatever, like the development. They've got Lucid doing it, and Lucid is developing on the PS5 as well. So they are giving a certain level of priority to the PS5 that is actually, for me, quite surprising. And then on the polar side of things, someone was talking about is Ninja Theory on the chopping block? Yes, they might be, but the sad thing is, I think part of it is self-inflicted, because I don't think Hellblade 2 has had the marketing behind it. And I know Aaron Greenberg may disagree, but I don't feel like it's had the marketing behind it to justify what it presents, especially technically, right? Because we've been looking for a game that showcases the technical capabilities of the system for a long time. There basically isn't really one. In fact, I'd say the best looking game on the system is still Forza Horizon 5, which is a cross-gen game. So, you've got this game that has like immense fidelity. They've put a lot of money and effort into it with all the photo scan, the revolutionary new facial scanning and photogrammetry, etc. Well, it's almost like a blip on the radar. It's like it's not really getting that much attention, and if anything, I would say there's been much more fanfare around Sea of Thieves on PS5. So I don't really understand it. I don't really understand what's going on there with the marketing spread and stuff like that. But I think unfortunately that will be something that compounds any issues that Ninja Theory may face in the future.
Well, Nib,
if I may add to
go
what
ahead,
Nib is saying over here, the first thing that I want to say about Ninja Theory not being safe, when we found out that Tamim Antoniadis that he is no longer with the company anymore, that says something.
Yeah.
It means that I think that it really means that he knows something that we don't. I believe so.
Or same with Shinji Mikami, right? He left.
Yeah. I believe that these guys knew something that we didn't, or maybe they knew that these layoffs that they were going to happen, and they didn't want to be
well, I mean, RG, you do make a point. I mean, if you stop and look at the history here, a lot of people have left Bethesda. You saw Pete Hines. Listen, I don't have the inside track to why, but Pete Hines left. A few other higher executives. You saw the people from Playground Games, the founders there left. Now you saw, was it Mikami that left?
Yeah.
Right, he left Tango.
Shinji Mikami.
And a lot of people say, "Oh, that's nothing. That's nothing at all." And I'm like, "No, but that's actually
something. It is not. It is not nothing. No. Oh, Jesus.
These are companies that they originated. You're talking about founders. You're talking about the original people that were there, and they're leaving. And I think RGG is right. He's saying maybe they know something that we don't, and they're seeing it come down the pipe. The other thing, a lot of speculation. And I mean, you guys can tell me whether you think it's right or not. Eric, what do you think? I mean, there's been I know today, again, why is it that the gaming community has to rant and rave? Like, where's all the Hellblade 2 advertising? And then all of a sudden, Xbox comes out with it. Like somebody was asleep at the wheel and they're like, holy shit, I forgot. Like, I mean, why is it now, Eric? Is this a telltale? That's why I kind of asked that question about them being safe. Is there a situation here that, like, Hellblade 2 was the game that they showed off the console with at the Game Awards, was it not?
Yep. No, it absolutely was.
And now it's about to release in 2 weeks, and we're getting like these. I mean, I did the same amount of advertising for CrossFire today.
The advertisement. Have you seen the ad? I just saw it. It's trash.
It is. It's that right, Jack.
Yeah, I just saw it too, Jack.
Like
it's horrible. Like, what the hell are y'all doing over there?
What's going on?
I don't understand.
Speaking of advertisements,
how do you expect people to be excited and want to be in your platform when you look like you're doing the bare minimum and phoning it all in? Goes back to what I said. Like, your culture is not about excitement. It's not about getting people hype. It's about just good enough. Like, hey, we did it. Now,
Hey, come on now. Did you not see the roadmap? Come on now.
I felt this way about Gears 5, right? I don't know if you guys completed Gears 5, but I remember at the time I was like, why are they waiting so late to market this game? It's so weird. Like, we should have a story trailer and a documentary series about the development of the game like PlayStation does, and show us the engine and show us the music, and here's an interview with the guy who did the soundtrack, here's the interview with the voice actors, and Sony do these big rollouts on YouTube where they have entire docu-series, and it really gets you invested in the
absolutely
in the production.
You know why it might be though that I'm thinking about it? They clearly don't want to, spend no excess cash right now, and we know it's dropping. We know it's dropping day one in Game Pass, so it's the $25 million they got the Game Pass. They might download it, but shit, we ain't really trying. Imagine you advertising the motherfuckers ain't gonna buy the game on top of that. So it's like, nah. Hey man, if you got Game Pass,
we'll make the money on PlayStation 5. We'll advertise it.
That's what I was gonna say, Jack. Jack, you nailed it.
Come to PS5, probably.
Right? So it's on Game Pass. So the people on Game Pass are gonna play it there. They're definitely not gonna go out and double dip and buy it. But then Nib comes back and it's 100% true. You'll start seeing advertising like we saw for Sea of Thieves when it goes to PlayStation. That's crazy. It's just it's mind-boggling, to say the truth. It really
It's
is.
because they've changed the dynamic on Xbox, which has been mentioned on the chat here several times. I mean, on the call here, is that Xbox has conditioned their fans to just expect things on Game Pass, so maybe they don't feel that they should promote it. But on PlayStation, they know people buy games on there. That's
Game Pass, and that's the thing. I see a lot of people in the chat that, and by the way, that's fine. You can feel this way. I don't think they're necessarily wrong. They say, well, PlayStation Plus is, not any good. Listen, the thing with PlayStation Plus, it is what you think it is. It's an extra thing. It's an extra service if you want to get extra or premium, right? It's just
actually. Can I just
go
a
ahead,
note
TC?
on that?
But I'm just saying, like,
For PlayStation Plus, I think some people need to really focus on what Xbox Game Pass has been getting on the month-to-month, besides the day ones.
Yeah.
Like, some of the games they've been getting have been on PlayStation Plus a while, and some of the games that PlayStation Plus gets has been on Xbox Game Pass for a while. The highlight for Game Pass are those day ones, and how often have we seen those in recent memory that's like been like something that's like, oh, that's on Game Pass, let me go play that now. Like, it's coming out.
And this is why, Christopher Dring, he was at PAX, I think it was, or no, what's it, the German one? I forgot what it's called now.
Gamescom.
Gamescom, yeah. And he was talking to developers and stuff, and he came out with a video in a podcast, and he was like, "Oh, developers have been telling me, people have been telling me that Microsoft is going to scale back on Game Pass." And he actually got bullied off Twitter. He actually deleted his account for a time, and then was persuaded to come back on. But it's like, people, like, and this is anyone listening, right? We need to stop doing this thing when, like, people have. I'm not talking about like bluster from hype men, right? I'm talking about people who are connected to the industry. He deals with UK sales and European sales. He's like the Matt Piscatella, right? If people have direct contact and insight and data from the publishers, give those people more credence, right? When they say something. Likewise, if a developer is telling you about X, systems or X, API or whatever they're telling you, development complications or how things are playing out, listen to them. Don't listen to the PR from Sony or from Microsoft or from some hype man on IGN or whatever other. Listen to the people who are actually doing the work, right? So when he said that, and a lot of a certain fandom wrote him off, like, oh no, he just hates Xbox, blah blah blah. But it turns out, based on everything that's transpired over the last week, that he probably did have the correct information, right? Even the people who I think Jez Gordon was trying to imply that he's wrong, but it turns out that again he is a Jez Gordon who probably didn't have the correct information.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think with Christopher Dring, is it? I think you mentioned, like you say, he's correct. Like a Matt Pescatella, where he's getting reliable information from sources, and you say, he's not trying to fanboy in either direction. He's just reporting the news that he has to report. And he has been more right than wrong, I can tell you that much. So, the proof's in the pudding. I'm going to switch gears here because we're already at the 2-hour mark. I got to go. This is a big deal, guys. I know we talked about Xbox for quite some time today, but I do want to talk about some of the mess up and kind of a catastrophe, guys, that was the whole Helldivers 2 and Sony and requiring the PlayStation requirements. Jack, I got to go to you because, Jack, you've been, like I say, that's what I love about Jack. Jack is legitimately fair across the board. Listen to the man when he speaks. Jack, in all honesty, was this an absolute fiasco debacle on Sony's part? And two parts to the question. Requiring PSN, I know it was in the terms of service, so it was there, but you know the way it is. You know the way it is. Anything in this world, once you get that and they waive, it's hard to say to somebody, well, listen, I'm kind of going back on waiving that right now. And the other thing is, over 170 some countries they don't have the capabilities. I think it was 170 countries. It was delisted in 170 countries at least. So people that bought the game had to ask for a refund. So Jack, what was your take when you saw all this? Because this is a major hit for Sony in the multiplayer space.
Yep. I definitely felt it was a debacle. I felt like it was negligence on behalf of Sony. I also feel like I'm not a computer engineer or a developer, but I feel like there is a way, because even when you're using a sports betting app, right? If sports betting is not legal in your state, when you get on that app, it's going to say we detected where you are. You can't use it, right? And if you're in a place where it's legal, it's gonna work. So
that's right.
I just feel like on the back end, they could have instituted something where, if you're in a country that doesn't allow PSN, we'll let you play the game still. But if you're in a country that does have PSN, you're required to use it, right? And we know why they're trying to merge the ecosystems. So them waiving it for this game, I was like, I understood it, but at the same time, they clearly want to make a PSN launcher. They clearly want to make, a storefront on PC.
Yeah,
they want to slowly wane themselves away from Steam, but it's going to be a disaster. I think that's a horrible endeavor to even try to get. We see how PC gamers react to things, right? We even see how they reacted to games with Windows Live, how they react to Game Pass on PC. They want their games on Steam, and they want to be able to dictate how games are played. If they want to steal, how PC gamers get, right? So it's like, and then on top of that, I'm hearing now that because Ghost of Tsushima also,
that's right.
The single player. It's cool with the single player, but if you want to play the Ghost of Tsushima Legends mode, it also requires PSN sign-in. That's right. So I'm seeing now that they're the same countries they was banning from the sign-in or whatnot. They saying it's not going to be available to even be sold in those territories now. So they might be doubling down on it. They did revert back with the Horizon situation where people say you said you was going to give us the upgrades for free, and then you didn't. They say, okay, well, this is going to be the last time because we forgot some type of way. I don't know how that works, but maybe it was like, okay, Helldivers 2, we made a mistake. We going to let y'all rock with that. But going forward, you just ain't going to be able to buy the game. So it looked like they might be doubling down on that.
Hey, Mooch, I have two things real quick on this, if I can jump in and kind of piggyback off this. So here's what happened. I actually spoke to somebody that was at the studio. The first 2 days that the game came out, those regions were locked. So what happened is they were having issues with the server, and the studio head wanted to take pressure off of the server. So they turned off about 5 or 6 different things. That was one of them. It did not get communicated over to Steam to go in and manually add those selective regions in there to not be able to purchase the game. So when they turned that feature off, it got turned off on Steam side as well because it was no longer a feature restricting who could buy and who could not because of that PSN access. It did not get communicated over to Steam to go in and do it manually. So that's why when you saw that, hey, we're going to turn this on, you saw someone took a photograph of it. You can see all the countries that are in there that were manually inputted on the Steam side. That's what they have to do. So that's kind of number one of how that happened. Number two, I am against and I'll explain why. I'm against this PSN access if you buy the game on Steam. If you're PlayStation or Xbox or whoever, we have seen prime examples that PC users, they will do anything to spite you. It doesn't matter. They're very patient, they're stubborn, and they want it the way. Stubborn might not even be the right way. They know what they like. And if you don't put it on that platform, Steam, they won't buy it. They won't touch it. And I think that if you go through and you try to require them to have PSN, you had people review bombing the game, which I'll be honest with you, that's their right to do to get their attention. Yep. You have people doing that. It wasn't even affecting them. They were doing it just because of the culture of PC. They were doing it for other people, which you turn that thing on 3 months later and people can't have access to the game. That's pretty messed up. So I'm glad that they reversed it.
Absolutely.
But if PlayStation's going to get into this PC atmosphere and they're going to play in here, you have to realize that the PC players are just, I don't even know what to say about you guys. It's just a different breed. It is a different breed. And if you do something that they don't like, they are going to do whatever they can, however they can, to make you pay. And if you don't put your games on Steam and you restrict it behind this PSN access, I think it's going to hurt.
Do you think
Sony more than it is?
Do you think what Jack is saying earlier is what a lot of people are saying is that PlayStation may be preparing to have their own launcher, this and that. From what I'm hearing from 100%. You, but what I'm hearing from you though, that may not be successful.
I don't think it will be. Do I think they're going to do it? Yes, but here's what I would say if they are going to do it. They would have to find a way to implement the launcher to coincide with Steam. And what I mean is, if you make a purchase on Steam, and you want to say, hey, I made this purchase on Steam, but I want to be able to track trophies and so on and so forth. You should have a code or whatever to let that launcher know that you've purchased the game. You just purchased it through Steam. And say somebody wants to be able to go over there and get trophies, or they need to have some type of integration with Steam so that it's seamless. Because if you don't, those guys on Steam are not going to come to your launcher and support it. They're just not. Now, you may get some that come over if they really want to play a game, but if you restrict that access, other launchers have tried it. Ubisoft, EA, all these others have tried it, and the Steam users have shown, put it over here, we'll buy it, we'll support your game as long as you do right by us. You put it somewhere else, you can go F yourself. That's pretty much what it is.
So I got to go back to Jack real quick. Jack, you heard what Seeds just said. Do you think if Sony puts out their own, if they're like, listen, apparently it isn't working for us over because we want to do it our way, they do their own launcher. Do you see that being a failure and maybe this whole, right? Or no, you think people will buy PlayStation games where they put them?
I think it's going to fail horribly.
Yeah,
I think they're going to run with their heads tucked in between their legs back to Steam. It's really not going to work. Like, PC gamers are a different breed. Like, I know I had my problem with PC gamers in the past. And on top of that, I'm going to take it a step further. Them putting trophies on Steam is also a very bad idea, because another thing Steam players love to do is mod, hack, and listen. This is what's going to happen. All of a sudden, people are going to boot up Ghost of Tsushima and have the platinum in 30 seconds. It's like, damn, a record number of platinums on Steam. That's crazy, right? So they're going to hack the trophies. It is what it is. At this point, I don't know what the fuck PlayStation's doing, bro. They got the, I don't know.
I think
y'all like it, I love it, man.
I think that, and I understand what you're saying in terms of the hack. I mean, you can't, they're going to do what they want to do. But I think if you keep it separate so that has to go through the launcher, I mean, could they figure it out? Yeah, I'm sure they're going to figure it out in some point or another. It's PC guys. But I just think that if they try to do that launcher on its own, it's going to fail.
Yeah.
And real quick, somebody said in the chat, why does Sony have to do that? The reason I'm saying Sony has to do that is I would like to see them be successfully able to integrate with the PC community. I'm not saying they have to do that. They can do whatever the hell they want. I don't care. I don't work for them. But I would like to see them be successful in doing that. And so far, we have seen these other companies try to integrate their own launcher in with the PC user base, and it has failed. It has not gone well. So you're going to have to, as a corporation, as Sony, open up, I guess, your arms a little bit to the PC crowd and say, how can we integrate our games over to where you will purchase them and enjoy the way that we do it? How do we do that? And I don't know. I don't work for Sony. I don't know.
You know how they do it. You know how they got to do it. They got to bend their knee. And this is one thing I did not like about the Helldivers 2 situation. Even though PlayStation was definitely wrong in their situation, now, and they even came out with an apology. I've never seen them come out like, sometimes they might say, we made a mistake or something, but they were like, we're integrating slowly with PC, and it's a learning experience, and we're doing our best. And see, when you do shit like that, so now PC gamers know what's going on.
Yeah.
So all the death threats that they did, and we gonna thumbs down your game on Steam. Oh, that's how we get results. Okay, cool. So now we know what's going on. After they reverted, they sent them the lady. They gave death threats flowers. Like, it's a whole dog and pony show over there, right? So we know what's going on. Next time PlayStation do something they do not like, they're gonna complain, downvote the game, threaten to steal it, and give death threats, and they're gonna get what they want. Because even it's like Sony. Anytime we don't talk about rumors and speculate, they all tight chested with this shit. But the moment somebody get to threaten them and talking crazy, they reward bad behavior. Is what I'm seeing. You know what I mean? So hey man, you know how they gonna get them. Yeah, and
I think that I'm not condoning any of that. You send death threats, so I mean,
of course not.
Yeah, but I think that they have to be PC guys, whether people want to say, hey, it's trash, PC game, whatever, those guys can organize. And whether you want to believe it or not, they're disciplined. They will wait a long period of time to play a game just to do it. Console guys, I'm a console guy. I prefer to play on my PlayStation. That's my preference. I don't apologize for it. That's my preference. But console guys are not organized. Most of the console guys, you couldn't keep a Twinkie out of your mouth when you started a diet that day. You're just not disciplined. Those PC guys are disciplined, and they will wait and wait and wait until you bring it to where they want to buy it.
But it's like you
and
said,
if you don't, then guess what? They'll steal it.
You'll have to do an incentive to have them sign up for PSN now.
Yep.
And now what that
You gotta
incentive,
incentivize them.
like, and I originally was thinking, okay, well, the incentive would be then you would get trophies or then you would get this and that. But then Jack was right. They'll probably find a way always to get the trophies.
You know what's funny, Mooch? When they initially announced the PlayStation overlay, I saw nothing but overwhelming. Oh, we getting trophies and PSN. But the moment they heard this word, they shut down completely. Required. PC gamers do not like being told what to do. The whole point of PC gaming for them is the illusion of freedom. And whenever you skew that illusion of freedom, they on your ass. Whenever they feel like they can't do something, they get rebellious, they get violent, they start threatening. That's all it is, man. If they would have never said required, wouldn't nobody have no problem with no PlayStation overlay. Even if it was required, like you got to sneak shit in with these guys, bro. You know what I mean? When it was on the storefront, it's PSN is required. People looked through that, they read it, and they bought the game with no issue. Nobody complained. Until they realize, oh, wait a minute, this shit really is required. Oh, you see what's going on with this, bro.
You know, it is funny you say that. And I do think when it comes down to it, like, it goes back to, like I was saying, you know, once you allow people to play and buy the game, this whole thing was, well, we said 3 months ago. I got to be honest with you. It don't matter what you said 3 months ago. It just don't matter anymore. Like you said,
that's true. That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, as far as what they're going to do moving forward, I'll be real with you. I don't know how they're even going to work this Ghost of Tsushima situation out. I really don't.
If I may ask you guys something, because I think that you guys know about this thing much better than me. Let's say that Sony doesn't do this launcher that they are talking about, right? And they just bring their games onto Steam just like that. And the multiplayer is free. How much do you think that Sony is going to lose from this? In comparison to actually having their own launcher?
I don't think their own launcher is going to work. Look at Epic Game Store. Like, and you guys tell me. I listen. I have a PC. I'm kind of like with Jack. Like, I have a PC to play games on, but I don't necessarily rock out all my games on there. So I don't know. But I can tell you right now that, like, the Epic Game Store is not doing great. Right? That's not doing great. Everything's got to be on Steam. Microsoft tried doing this themselves. Right? Microsoft Game Store was. I'm not going to use the word disaster, but it ain't great.
Didn't they shut it down twice? I feel like they shut it down, brought it back, and shut it down again. Like,
you know, I mean, it's so not even on
my. Sony's got to figure out if collecting data from monthly active users is more important than selling it in regions that can't have PSN.
That's right.
That's what they're going to have to figure out.
At the end of the day, C's, there's no way. I'm having a hard time, especially after we just had the conversation with Game Pass. Okay, I'm having a real hard time thinking you want to pass up on sales. That's cash, man. That's money. Money's always going to be king, right? So that's never going to. They're going to have to either deal with telling their investors that that's just a problem. We're not going to be able to report those numbers to you. But trust me, I got some sales numbers. You know, I mean,
and the reason I think that they are wanting that data, and I'm happy to be wrong if someone presents evidence otherwise. The reason they want that data is to show investors so that they can continue to pump that money in their games as a service initiative that they're going after. Because you want to be able to show, hey, we have X number of players interacting with our games this month.
Yeah,
this is how many players we have interacting with our games this month.
Can't you show that with concurrent game? We see the concurrent players, and they can definitely start to show. If they want to brag, they can show how many people are playing on PlayStation.
Ain't that kind of like bad too, though? Because imagine if you say, hey, we got 7 million people interacting with Helldivers 2, and then they say, okay, cool. But what about PSN, which is another form of revenue that we, generate from this? And then they say, well, PS Plus is a different story. We might only got, 200,000 with the PSN subscription. So you mean to tell me it's like 6.8 million people that ain't utilizing our secondary monetization with this game? What y'all doing over there? I feel like
yeah.
Well, my understanding
what if they integrate like
storefront or PSN like ability to buy microtransactions or whatever through the PSN interface somehow with the overlay in future, right? So it could be more of a lot wider scope down the line than as to why they're wanting to push it besides just the data, right? Because the fundamental like thing about transitioning to PC is that they lose this 30% cut, right? That's why console is still going to be their priority because they get this 30% margin. But if they can slowly start to transition that and make more revenue on the PC side, maybe that's part and parcel. Oh, again, it's just conjecture on my part, but I assume they have a broader long-term goal.
I think that might be some of it. I think right now, though, if I was to bank on their main priority, it's getting the data. Because the data that they can show to their investors of how many interactions and users, they're going to continue to be able to get that extra money for their games as a service initiative. And I will say the reason, and from my understanding of showing like, hey, we have 8 million active users with PSN per month or whatever compared to PS Plus, not all their games are going to go on PS Plus, so they're able to show that differential of this is how we're getting this is a sales, because at the end of the day, if you look at the charts, when people say numbers don't lie, they're lying. You can make numbers lie and make numbers look different all you want to be able to prove a point. So if they want to take those numbers, because that's what they're going to do, they're going to say, look how many active users we have. Microsoft did the same thing for Starfield. Look at the number of users that we had on Starfield.
Right,
okay,
right.
What was it, 15 million or whatever the number was?
Yeah, whatever the number.
That's all they put on there. You can make the numbers look however you want, and they want the numbers because they want the data.
Seeds, I'm glad you brought that up, though. Okay, so they reported. Let's even go 20 million, whatever, 20 million, 25 million, 15 million for Starfield. What did that really tell? So you're an investor. You hear that one night you go home, you're like, that's great. Then you see the numbers come out as far as how they're doing in the Xbox, game studios and this and that, and their games are going on PlayStation. So, like, I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, like, I don't know why all of a sudden out of nowhere, like this particular metric is being held higher than others.
So my understanding, because I asked someone that within a PlayStation studio. I asked someone that, and they said that those metrics are important to them because it allows them to drive the conversation for games as a service and be able to continue to have that money basically liquidated or set aside for those projects. If they can't show that there is an interest in that and the ability to grasp onto an audience and get them to interact with that particular games as a service model, the investors and the shareholders will not go for it. But if they have the data and they can showcase that data to say, hey, look, this game here, we have 15 million users or whatever the case might be, they're going to continue to want to pump money in. And that's what they're looking at.
Do they not have Steam side data though for how many people?
I don't think so. I don't think that they get that. I don't think it's they might get some of it, like active users on Steam, but from my understanding, they want to be able to tie it to their network and show
more granular data, basically. Yeah.
Correct. They want to be able to show this is how many people are interacting with our network and playing these games that we pump out, and that's why they want it. And it's the same thing with kind of those, the Game Pass numbers. They want to continue to be able to pump that in.
Just one point of context for that, right? I remember, I forgot his name, Piles, the main director of Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
One of the things he said that people were doing on Steam was to avoid the queue systems. They were leaving themselves logged in on the PC.
That's
basically.
Right.
They were leaving themselves logged into the servers, or leaving the app running in the background. So you had essentially an inflated number of concurrent users on the PC side because they were essentially circumventing the queue system, right?
That's right.
So it's not really genuine active players because a lot of them are just in the lobby or whatever and doing nothing. So I assume in that sense more granular data would give them exact specifics, like how much time are they spending in this or this game mode or that game mode. But I will say on the point about, Mooch brought up an interesting thing about engagement in general. Yeah, engagement, there's this big conversation even I was having the other day. How valuable really is the engagement number without any context? Because even Halo Infinite, I remember, like, was it 30 something million? They announced they had like 30 something million, but then on Steam, like, you know, the number of players was low, and then on the Xbox most played link or whatever, at times it was like the 35th most played, 34th most played, 29th, and for Halo that's actually quite poor. Like back in the day, Halo was always in the top 5, so even though it had this very high engagement, this is the number of players, in reality, without the proper retention, it was rather meaningless.
Yeah, that's the thing, but I listen, that's not the business or world I work in, but it's an interesting point. I don't know why that metric has become the golden standard. And Seeds has said it a few times. Seeds is probably like, do I have to say it again? Seeds makes a good point. Seeds is trying to say, well, that's what they report to their investors, and that's how they kind of quantify their investment. I just don't. I think game sales and current active users, like you just said, Nib, when we reported, where was Halo Infinite when it fell out of the top 10 and then it fell out of the top 20? I remember it falling backwards. That is a more relative metric to show your investors, oops, we got a problem here. They don't care that 30 million people stopped by Starfield and balanced 1 million sandwiches on their Starship. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like, in the end of the day, how many people bought the game? How many people are still engaged in the game? How many people will buy future DLC? That's all based upon how many people are still playing and enjoying the game.
The other thing that I believe that they grab from that data being more granular, they can see all the way down. Someone mentioned a good point. Hey, can't they see it because they have Helldivers servers? From my understanding, they get that granular data down to the fine point when you're signed into their networks. They can see how much time you spend in each game mode. They can see, hey, which weapons does this person like the most? Which type of, are the assault rifles more prevalent? There's so many different data points that they like. And the reason they want that is because they are making other games as a service games, and they can collect data from their, what I would consider to be very, successful games, and be able to apply it to these other studios and say, hey, look, this worked in Helldivers 2, try it in your game. Players like to have this. They utilize this type of rifle. They utilize this type of optic on their weapon, whatever the case might be. If they're building a shooter, for example, they can get that granular to see which players utilized what weapon systems, what perks, so on and so forth. Because if you look at skill trees and stuff, a lot of times they're pretty similar, right? I mean, for the most part, there's a similar nature to that. That derives from data collection. So when you see studios that are putting these different skill trees and things in there, a lot of times you see similar skill trees by studios because they've collected data. They know how people are going to integrate with those skill trees. That's what they want.
I would go one further. It probably would be used to pursue game design as well, right? Because these games have microtransactions in them. So if you want to sell MTX to PC specific players, you have to know exactly how they're playing the game. Otherwise you won't have that data to back your design.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's very granular.
100%. So I mean, there's a lot of, I'm very curious. This Helldivers 2 fiasco really, I'm just wondering, Jack, you think it makes Sony pivot at all on the PC front, or no, they're still going to keep doing what they're trying to do?
They're very stubborn. They're very bullish. I think they're going to continue with the initiative. Well, maybe not, because they did revert their games as a service. They was making 12, then they cut it in half. So
they cut it in half, and I bet you we may only see half of that.
Exactly. So I think they're going to try to, whatever plans they got in the pipeline for the PC releases right now, they're going to keep doing them. Yes. But if some of them start to taper off, or they get another situation like this with the region situation, they might say, all right, we got to look at this again. We got to reevaluate this situation, because it's not, it ain't playing out the way we thought it would. So.
Yeah, we're gonna find. Listen, this question's legit, and it's gonna come up on a lot of podcasts later this year, because Concord's supposed to come out, right? That's still slated for 24, and that's gonna be that's a games as a service. That's gonna be PlayStation 5 PC, and they're gonna run into the same problem. And I don't think they're gonna have their launcher ready by then either. So my point being is that they're just going to have to waive the whole thing because, Jack, you just said it. Once they've already bent the knee, that's over. That's over. We've already passed.
But with Ghost of Tsushima, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I haven't been following it. But are they? From what I last read was that they're just not going to sell it to anyone in countries where PSN sign-in, etc., is not available. Is that right? Like,
well,
I'm getting mixed things about that because Alex, y'all know Alex.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah.
He said that only Green Man Gaming isn't selling it in those territories because they don't want people refunding the game. That's what he just told me, but I don't know either. I don't know.
But here's the thing, though. People already bought it in those countries, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like, they can't.
I think it was up for pre-order, right?
You can't walk that back down.
Well, it sounds like another mess is incoming then. Should be entertaining.
That's what I'm saying. You can't do that. So you have to you promised them that product. Listen, at the bottom line, we always say this. We're the consumers at the end of the day. Like, they bought that product. They should be able to play that product. I mean, I don't know. You can't come out.
Yeah.
Listen, 1 hour later, 3 months later, 1 year later, you can't come out and be like, "Oh no, Jack, let me get that back real quick. Nib, let me get that back."
Yeah.
I
will say, I think maybe maybe they might approach Helldivers with a little bit more. I don't know. They might tiptoe around that a bit more because there's a much higher volume of players playing it, so they stand to lose more financially, right? Whereas maybe they might not sell as many copies of Concord on PC or Ghost of Tsushima or whatever. They probably have their internal metrics of what they do and do not expect to sell. So maybe they think with those games, we'll just stick with this PSN thing because we won't lose as much. But with Helldivers, it was much more of a financial risk.
If Concord is a banger game, then that's a discussion to have. But if it's if it's a game that they need to have that player base, I don't think they can. I don't think in this stage right now where we're at, and you want to try and have a games as a service be successful, you have to be you have to be on PC and your platform. Yeah, you just, because that's the thing. Like last night, I was just selling to my friend. My friend, listen, he has no idea podcast is that. He's got a PS5, and he goes, all I keep seeing is people talk about this Helldivers 2. So I booted up Helldivers 2. Bang! Not only I just played single player real quick to just show him a quick round of it. And like 3 random, boom, right in the game. So I had a team of 4, didn't even, nothing. Didn't send any messages out to friends, nothing. Just bang. That's how big this is right now. You got a community out there playing this game. Not only playing it, loving the game. Loving it. Like, absolutely. Like, so if Concord has that kind of strength, PlayStation's definitely going to want to have PC support. And I don't see how you.
No, I didn't mean non-PC support. I meant what they could do is we're only going to sell it in the countries where PSN sign-in is possible.
Okay.
Sort of
Okay.
Thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So because I think, as far as I understand, that's still the majority of territories for PC gaming. But obviously, I don't know. I have no idea
that's
how they're
interesting.
going to deal with it. But they've dealt with it a bit shoddily.
Well,
and it seems like
they better start putting, if that's really what they want, they better start putting PSN in a lot more countries and work on that. That's what they should be working on.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what they should be focusing on right now.
Yeah, don't worry
which in the long run will pay dividends as well, right? Because they're bringing their network and their whatever infrastructure to more countries, which can't be a bad thing, right? They just need to work on it quickly.
100%. RGG, what do you think about this? I mean, it's of course you have PSN in your area.
Yeah, we do.
But what about is there any surrounding countries that that don't have this available?
No, I don't think that there are any surrounding countries that don't have.
Because I don't have the list in front of me, so I'm not sure which ones do and which ones do not.
No. I think that all surrounding countries around Greece that they do have PSN with no issues whatsoever. To me, this whole thing, it really doesn't bother me much because I think that PC gamers were also bothered by the fact that they had to make a second account to play the game. But I make second accounts all the time for Ubisoft, for 2K games, for EA in order to play their games on my PlayStation 5. So I don't really see what's the big deal about that, because you just make that account only once and then you are done. But the main problem from what I saw is that people were not able to play Helldivers 2 in 177 countries because those countries didn't have any PSN infrastructure. So that is the main issue here. I don't think that it is the problem that people have to make a separate account. It is that game, it is so big and so successful for Sony that it really has to be in every single country out there.
Yeah.
And that's the main issue, and that's what they actually have to solve, and I don't know how they can do that.
It's crazy when you're trying to sell a product to everybody in the world, and then you say, wait a minute, we want to have this criteria in place, but you don't have that criteria in place for that customer. I honestly, that does not make sense to me. I think the whole thing either has to go back to the drawing board, or like you said, they're just not going to be able to sell that game in those countries, because if that's what you're requiring, it's not fair to ask somebody to pay $70 for a game. I don't care if it's $70, $40, and then walk it back and be like, well, no, you can't play the multiplayer part. What is that? I'm sorry, that's crazy. That's straight up crazy. I can't believe these are the times we're living in right now. It's crazy.
Did you see Steam got banned in one of them countries?
Say again, Jack?
No, I was gonna say, did you see? I don't even know if this is true. All these rumors. Did you see? They said that I think it was like Malaysia or something like that. They end up, even though they reverted the PSN signing requirement, they end up banning Steam like a few days after that in the country. Like
what?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I read that today.
What was did they give a reason?
No, I read that today though.
I'm telling you, everything's crazy these days.
There was one person I saw who would be affected by this, because most of the people who complained about it were in regions where there was PSN, but there was one person on my Twitter who I follow, and I can't remember it. I think they might have been from Antigua, maybe. But yeah, he was saying, it's weird. Like, my country doesn't have PSN, so what's going to happen? Like, what's the situation? He didn't mind so much, but he would have minded if he lost access. But he was saying, as long as there's a way to still play the game, he's fine with it. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how not just how they deal with this going forward, but how they deal with the PC gaming community.
Yeah.
Because if they're as energized as it seems, then they could have a lot of back and forth.
No, they're going forward. It's funny you said that. Jack was saying that. Seed said that. I can tell you, they're going to earn their money. They're going to earn that money if they go in there, man, because they got to do it right. They got to do it right. They don't, like I said, they don't get that forgiveness like they do from the console side. Crazy night tonight. We talked about a lot. Actually, I can't believe it, guys. We got through 9 of the 10 topics that I had written down here. Amazing night, great panel, amazing chat. Still 422 people. Please, guys, hit the like button if you didn't. It was an outstanding show. I kept these guys here 2 hours plus to talk gaming news and rumors, man. Great stuff tonight. I'll go in reverse order here and say, RGG, thank you so much for being here tonight, buddy. Outstanding. Great first time on CrossFire, buddy. We're going to have you back on real soon. Representing Greece the right way. Let people know where they can find you. Thanks for being here tonight.
First of all, I want to thank you for having me on to your show here. And all the panel has been amazing.
Yes.
And I mean, all of you guys are great. And you have such great insights about the video game industry, and you know so much stuff that I really didn't know about. So coming here onto your podcast, it was a learning experience. Really,
awesome.
It really was, guys. So thank you. Okay, you can find me on YouTube. My channel's name is Ranting Greek Gamer. Although I speak Greek there, I stream pretty much every new game release that is coming out. So if you can also, if you want, you can come and watch me to play the new games that are coming out. If you speak in English on my chat, there is no problem because I will respond definitely, so don't worry about that. But you have to expect that since I since I live in Greece, everything is in Greek. So yeah. So you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube, and I'll be here. So.
Great to have you, RGG. Great to have a different perspective from another part of the world. I absolutely love it. So we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Absolutely. Shout out to Glinser, by the way. I missed this. I apologize. He says Xbox lived on takeout instead of learning to cook. Shout out to Glinser. And Jay Hart, he says movie studios misjudged because of COVID too. I think that's when Jack might have been making a couple of Netflix references. So shout out to Jay. I appreciate all you guys. A lot of people sub too. I appreciate that. I saw your name come up in lights. Great to have you all here, part of the channel. It means the world to me. Speaking of that, Jack move Johnny. Jack, absolutely. Jack, every time you come on the show, I don't think you realize this, but you just get more and more fans just kind of follow you right out of here, right over to you on Twitter, Jack. Yo, great to have you here tonight. I reached out to you a couple weeks ago. You're like, Mooch, let's make this happen on another week. I reached out to you this week. You said, you know what? I think I can make this happen. So, Jack, always great when you're on here. You don't hold nothing back. You always put the truth out there. Can't appreciate you enough for being on the show, man. Let people know where they can find you. Thanks for being here tonight.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Shout out to the viewers. Shout out to the panel. Good conversations. Y'all can find me, man, Jack Moo Johnny, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, PSN, Weapon Wheel Podcast. Yeah, what else? Yeah, I think that's it, man. I appreciate y'all.
Always, Jack. Great to have you on the show. The great Nib, everybody. By the way, Nib literally just got done. And I would have to assume, because I know family in the restaurant business, this dude just got done with probably a 12-hour shift, maybe 14. I don't know when he's actually there. He might be there early for prep, too. So, Nib, it's late where you are. I can't thank you enough. Same thing for RGG. You guys are both on ridiculously late hours right now. Nib, let people know where they can find you. Because, honestly, you want to learn something about gaming? Follow Nib. Like, legitimately, he doesn't just give his opinion. He gives his opinion, and then, like he says, he has an entire thesis right after it. So, Nib, thanks for being here tonight, buddy, as always.
I try and do data. I just want to say, RGG, I liked your outro because it was quite humble, actually. But anyway, I was. You can only find me on one place. You can only find me on one place, Twitter, and it's at NIB95_. That's it. No, I don't do YouTube or anything like that. But I have really enjoyed the conversation. I think the panel's awesome. There's a couple of faces here who I've done the podcast with before, and it's great to see them as well. So yeah, good conversation.
And last but certainly not least, the great Detective Seeds. He's going to be here every Thursday, folks. So go ahead and get your Detective Seeds t-shirts that we'll have for sale soon. I'm just kidding. No, Seeds, great to have you as a part of the panel, man. I love your take on games. You review games, you play games, you talk games. And again, just like I said with everybody that was here tonight, you speak your mind, and that's what the CrossFire is all about. Seeds, welcome to the show officially again, but let people know where they can find you, and I look forward to talking more games next week.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Everybody, awesome job, man. It was so good to hear not just different points of view, but different points of view from around the world. It's interesting how gaming can bring people together from so many parts of the world. If you want to find me, it's at Detective Seeds on Twitter, and then Detective Seeds on YouTube. I do some reviews here and there, but I primarily do Platinum Trophy videos and PlayStation news and updates. I upload multiple times a week, so you can catch me there, and I'm glad to be invited on here. Every Thursday, I will try to limit my F word to one time per month. That is part of our contract.
Man, it's all
and
good.
So,
I always say, man,
but man,
I know YouTube a lot of stuff with the cursing and things like that. I always say, man, if you're speaking from the heart and you're in the middle of a rant, you just say what you got to say. You know what I mean? You say what you got to say.
I'll limit it to one time per month. But chat, man, you guys play games that you love to play, no matter the platform. Everybody loves games differently, and hopefully you guys continue to tune in as we talk games and a variety of topics. So appreciate you having me on weekly, and I look forward to it.
Absolutely, Seeds. A quick shout out to the guys that had to leave early. Shout out to TCMF. You guys know him. Listen, his Twitter is, or X if you want to say, is absolutely blown up. And he's got a great YouTube channel as well. He does videos once a week minimum. He's got a lot of things going on. Go over and check out TCMF Games over on YouTube. Shout out also to the great Eric Jackson, our voice of reason. Eric is just an outstanding friend of mine. I talk to him, I don't know if it's daily, but it's damn near close. Eric's just a great guy in the community, plays video games, keeps things real. So shout out to the great Eric Jackson. Can't wait till he returns to the show. And also Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. Brap! Brap had a lot going on this Thursday, but he still made time to come on Crossfire. So shout out to Brap. He goes live Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern as well. Guys, please, on the way out, hit the like button, the subscribe button. Shout out again to MASH for 30 gifted memberships again this week. MASH, I am beyond humble. Thank you so much, buddy, for everything you do for the channel. Guys, hit one of those buttons on the way out. Like, subscribe, join. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, and I'm sure the gaming industry and rumors and everything just won't disappoint. Enjoy some games this weekend. We'll see you next weekend. Peace out and good night.
Players, everyone. Have a good one.
Goodbye.